Hello everyone and welcome back to What a Barb, a Polin podcast. I've got Lecky and Veg with me and Beans is on the way. Didn't she say she was making a smoothie?
Is that what she said?
A smoothie, yes. She's getting her fruits in because she's, I guess, been having a lot of Thanksgiving cookies and turkey and not so much fruit, so she's avoiding scurvy.
Ah, that's a good plan.
Yeah, we're recording this just after Thanksgiving. I don't know when it'll come out, but that is the context. And so I think she's a little bit... What is it that you have, like the green bean thingamajig?
Green bean casserole?
She's green bean casseroled out. Clue's in the name, isn't it? But how are the two of you?
Doing okay.
Very well. 2 watches of Wicked down.
What did you think of it? Leck and I had a bit of a debrief the other day, but what's your thoughts?
So, really enjoyed it the second time. I think the first time I was too caught up in, like, all the things. So, Thank Goodness is my favourite song. And I was like, how's that? And, like, I cared a lot more about how it was done, probably because I knew the first movie was done well, so I kind of had higher expectations. And so I was a little bit, tiny bit disappointed, but on the second watch, I liked it again, and I'm happy with most of it. I think Glinda's side of things I was, like, unmoved by.
Utterly unmoved.
I think that's a good suggestion. Maybe the second rewatch will rectify some of the issues I had.
But yeah, you had Thanksgiving, Leck.
I did have Thanksgiving.
What are you thankful for?
Oh, I'm thankful every day for my dog.
Oh, that's very true, to be fair.
That's what I told my husband this year. It's like not an every year thing. It's literally every day. I try to tell.
Every second.
Yes, I tell her every day how grateful and thankful I am for her. And we stare into each other's eyes because she's the best.
That is the cutest thing ever.
Not a holiday to celebrate once a year. It's a holiday to celebrate every day. How much I love my pup. Oh, wait, she had her adoptiversary last week also. So happy news.
She did. She did. It all comes at once.
Her 12th adoptiversary. We've had her for 12 years now.
Oh, little baby.
And here's to many more.
Yeah.
I met a dog.
Oh, yeah?
To continue the topic of dogs, I met a dog at a Sunday roast I just went to. They were looking after it on behalf of their neighbours, who are in 2 out of my 3 top musicals, like, were in them when they're on the West End. They're, like, West End actors.
Ah, so it's like musical royalty. That's cool.
Yeah, and looked after their dog, so I'm hoping to get in there somehow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's big news. I've got to 100 musicals.
Congratulations.
So my goal was to get to 100 different musicals seen by the end of this year. Not in my life. Just I was at 80-something. So that's exciting too. But what's more exciting?
Oh, yeah. Speaking of dogs.
Yeah, speaking of dogs.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were building up to saying what the performance was, that the 100th performance was.
Oh, it was The Lion King.
Ah,
It was The Lion King.
not dog related. Close enough.
But speaking of dogs.
On the circle of life. I do, in fact, now have a puppy.
Oh.
I've had her for a little while. I'm up north for the moment, for the next few months. So the West End is not with me at the moment. But yes, I have a puppy. She's not here because she is too naughty to be up here right now.
Teething.
She's teething very, 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 very badly. So yeah, in puppy mayhem.
What's her name?
Her name is Dassie.
Oh.
She's very cute and she is a German Shepherd and she's 3 months old and she's got a lot of teeth.
Still growing into her ears.
So I'm up here for like the tough puppy months for a while because they're very hard, but
Pup's got to be raised.
she's adorable.
Yeah.
She's adorable. So a little bright spark in a dark year. But yeah, very exciting then, everyone. Beans, she will join us whenever she can. But guys, this is a big episode for us all. The final rewatch. Can you believe it?
Woohoo!
The tiredest woohoo.
I hope we can get this out to you before season 4.
Yeah, if this is coming to you in March, we hope season 4 was great.
If this is coming to you the day before season 4 comes out, them's the breaks.
That's how the cookie crumbles. So a momentous day for us if we manage to make it through. Obviously, that's not a given, so we'll give it our best shot. It's been a long time coming, believe me, but today we have finally reached season 3, episode 8, Into the Light, written by Daniel Robinson and directed by Tom Verica. Closing off this season. Episode 8 is a funny one, guys, isn't it? What were your first thoughts? Can you remember?
I feel like I was a speeding train, speeding toward that epilogue when this episode first started, because it opens with the blackmail and you're like, how the hell are they resolving this in one episode, let alone all the other drama that was going on? And I feel like this episode really takes advantage of that long runtime. I think this one's like an hour, 11 minutes or something like that.
It's a chunky one.
One of the longer ones this season. And I still feel like they didn't necessarily have enough time to cover everything, perhaps as well as they could have. There's just a lot going on in this episode.
Yeah, I vividly remember messaging, because Lecky and I watched it at the same time. I think, Veg, you were like an hour behind us.
Yeah.
And I remember messaging Lecky being like, we don't have time for this. I looked at the runtime of how long we had left in the episode and I was like, I can't remember which point it was, but there was a point and I looked and there was like 15 minutes left and I was like, oh no, there is not enough time to wrap this up.
Yeah. It's probably like right before the study scene and then all of a sudden there's like a montage of like Penelope putting her plan into action and we're like, oh, okay.
Yes, I think that's what it was.
This is how everything gets resolved, I guess.
It's like, oh, you're going to cover it in a 10-second montage. I get it. So it has a bit of a pervasive issue of running the fuck out of time. And yeah, I think it's a contentious one because finales usually are some of our favourites. And not just ours, but like across the fandom. Everyone loves a finale. 108 was great, 208 was great.
Yeah. Yeah, like the magic of the Saphne dance in 108.
The magic of a Saphne dance, the magic of...
Bing, 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 bing.
Of a bean. Ba-ba-da-ba. It is a bean herself.
Hello.
Hello.
We informed everyone that you were busy making a smoothie. Please, how did the smoothie go?
I didn't make it.
Oh, Beans, you really built it up then. We were selling it to everyone.
Oh, what a roller coaster.
Gosh, you just don't know where you stand with you.
But did you eat green bean casserole for Thanksgiving? That's the other thing we talked about.
I did eat green bean casserole.
Okay.
I ate a shitload of green bean casserole.
How are your sweet babies?
My sweet babies are fine. So I was in Florida for the last week and they've been like super glue, basically. Each one takes a turn sitting on my chest or my lap. And they don't want to be far away from me.
Adorable.
Yeah.
Beans, we kind of jumped into the very, very beginning. We were just saying, episode 8, divisive one. Do you think they ran out of time to tell the story?
Yes. Also, I watched episodes 1 through 3 on the plane.
Oh, we've done those, guys.
Oh, just in time for our rewatch.
Of season 3.
Please give me strength.
Ready to go again, Leck? What did you think of episodes 1 to 3?
They were great. You know what started it? I was listening to, randomly, I forgot to download my playlist before I went on the plane. But my Polin playlist was downloaded. And I literally wrote you guys a message in my notes app. I was like, I should have been the music director for this fucking season because all the stuff I picked was so good. Like, one of the songs I thought was when Cressida comes in her, like, big dress or whatever, they should have had 6-inch heels playing by Beyonce and then juxtapose that. So like initially the song is about her, but then when the new Whistle Down pamphlet comes out, it focuses on Penn and then the song is about Penn. It would have been so good.
Well, it would have been a brave new world had you been in charge, my darling.
I know.
Did you watch episode 8 at all, by any chance?
No, I only got episode 1 through 3.
No, that's okay. That's all right.
It's fine. I think she liked episode 8 though, so.
I do, yeah.
You've got very good memory though, don't you? So you'll be fine.
I have a pretty good memory. I've impressed many people with how good my recall is.
The rewatch is in safe hands, everyone. On that note, we were just saying, Beans, how we've historically really enjoyed the previous season finales.
Yeah.
And this one is a little bit different. I don't know, the pacing's a bit different. The resolutions fall a bit differently.
Yeah.
So let's see how it goes. I think our listener, Worrying Poet, sums it up well, saying, oh, episode 8, I feel so mixed about this one. On the one hand, I love the happy ever after, and I think Polin's epilogue worked well for them. On the other hand, it's probably the episode where I'd want the most changes, and I think I would agree.
I feel like this was the season. I know they want to stick to that 8-episode format for storytelling. This is a season where I feel like they should have added 2 more episodes.
I agree.
Yeah, 100% they needed it badly.
Too much is going on. Lady Whistledown is such a big character. It just didn't do her story justice, I feel.
Yeah.
And they tried to wrap too many things together in the end.
A lot of episode 8 suffers from the pacing of the previous episodes as well.
Yes.
So it's sort of carrying the weight of a lot of the issues that were earlier on as well. So it's a funny one.
Yeah.
But before we get into it, let's go to Lecky for the breaking crumbs of the week. I have to say, if you can hear bird sounds, my 4-month-old puppy has found a bird toy and is running around with it, and there's nothing I can do to stop her. So enjoy.
I'll do my best to take it out, but if we can't, enjoy.
Enjoy. It just feels like Devlin's in the room, you know? She's so incessantly shaking this bird toy. Anyway, what have you got for us, like?
The new year has definitely brought a new wave of promo for season 4. It feels hard to believe, but the new season is only a few weeks away now, and Bridgerton's social media accounts have been keeping us well entertained with many character teasers and posters. There's also been a deluge of new cast interviews across a wide range of publications. By the time you hear this episode, we'll probably already be out of date with all the crumbs that have been released, but we'll try and highlight just a few. The Bridgerton World Tour is back for season 4 with the new list of stops across the world. We don't have dates yet, but so far the places include Paris for the premiere, Cape Town, New York, Amsterdam, Toronto, Sydney, Atlanta, Madrid, Bucharest, and London.
Lovely.
Yaren Ha was also interviewed by Vogue Australia, where she spoke of her experience joining and leading the show. She said, "Through Sophie, I learned that kindness is going to be the best way to create the best art. That's the way I tried to lead the season." Luke Thompson spoke with Man of Many, where he shared his insights on playing Benedict across all 4 seasons of the show. Of his character, Luke said, "I think the big challenge and the excitement in putting him in the center of a Bridgerton storyline is that he's someone who's not quite in the center of his own life yet. Benedict values his freedom very highly and is probably a bit scared and blind to the idea of committing to someone and being with someone." Definitely some blindness there, I think, for Benedict in season 4. Interestingly, Luke also hinted at the plot points to come, and small spoiler warning here for the eponymous offer of Benedict's book, but he said, "It's what's great about doing long-form television. You get to really stretch out a character's portrait over years, and the most interesting stuff is how a character can surprise you. I'm really glad that when they looked at it and they looked at the book, they didn't try to soften his big, messy cock-up that he makes. I think it's really important that that stays in, because it's quite a striking moment and could feel like a very out-of-character thing for Benedict to do, but actually, if you think about how he's so desperate to have his cake and eat it, somehow he doesn't see that it wouldn't be an appealing offer. It really is a good offer from his point of view, and in a strange way, it's quite funny."
In a strange, strange way, like.
Do you think Sophie will be laughing? Place your bets now.
I do like that he's like, it's a really good offer from his perspective. Let's see how that goes.
I wanted to put a pause there and then be like, from Benedict's perspective. The full interview with Man of Many is really interesting, and we've all been fascinated to hear Luke's perspective on Benedict, so we'll link the full article in our show notes. Shondaland has been busy releasing a few new character profiles ahead of season 4, including an introduction to the Gun Lee family and a feature all about Violet. There are a few new stills released to complement these profiles, including a hilarious one of Violet sitting in the middle of Elle and Hyacinth as the 2 sisters glare at each other. There was also a beautiful shot of Violet in season 4.
Ugh, Marcus, lucky man.
One of our listeners pointed out that she almost has like a sweetheart neckline, potentially because she's romantically entangled with her own sweetheart in season 4, wearing her heart on her chest, I guess. I love it.
Violet in bloom.
Yes. Shondaland have also announced the return of Bridgerton, the official podcast, which will be in a visual format for the first time ever. And excitingly, the podcast will be hosted by none other than Alison Hammond. Polin fans, if you've been around for a while, then you will know that Alison holds a very special place in Polin history. So it's great to have her officially part of the Bridgerton family.
What a woman. What a time.
Yes.
What a January the 8th. Oh my God. Oh no, I was going to be like, it's anniversary today. No, it wasn't. It was days ago. But what a day that was.
We are speaking, of course, of the leak of Enchanted Polin. If you'd like to learn more about Enchanted Polin, we covered that back in our Crumbs production episodes. Speaking of leaks, Carriage fans, I honestly don't know what to say about this, but the Carriage 2.0 that Jess Brownell had teased, and which we saw a snippet of in the trailer, has also been making the rounds on social media in recent days. And all I can say is, those poor footmen better have access to a therapist at this point. I can only imagine the PTSD they are suffering from. But moving on. A new season also means new brand collaborations, so merch fans, it's time to get your fill. There are a ton of new collaborations being announced, including a new body care collection with Dove, kitchenware from Asda, a jewelry collection with Pandora, and new ice cream flavors from Jenny's. Most excitingly, the TV book tie-in offer for An Offer from a Gentleman is now available with the Benefit poster as the cover.
Oh, it looks so good.
It is pretty.
You know what, though, we haven't had word of?
What?
That I'm still waiting for? The soundtrack.
Oh, yeah, what songs?
Give me the soundtrack.
Yeah, is there going to be another funeral march in there? We will find out.
I want the vinyl, though. That's what I'm waiting for.
And if you're wanting to find a way to pass the time while waiting for season 4 to drop, or for the vinyl, we highly recommend checking out Alison Gartshore's Instagram account. Alison was the production designer for season 3, and she is sharing a ton of behind-the-scenes photos from many of the sets from last season. If, like us, you are fascinated with all the tiny details the production team incorporate into the world of Bridgerton, then you will love seeing Alison's photos and insights. We've had a great time poring over every little prop and design element, and we're sure our listeners will as well. You can catch up with Alison's posts over on her Instagram at Alison Gartshore.
Oh, I live for these details. They're so interesting.
I know. And she's been responding to a comment here and there. So if you have a pressing question, maybe the time to ask. And lastly, if you're still twiddling your thumbs waiting for season 4 or our next rewatch episode, it's coming. Shondaland have shared a new article called 10 Books We Think Eloise Bridgerton Would Enjoy. I was actually very excited about this list because a couple months ago, I read this book by India Holton, and it was like a fantasy rom-com set in this alternate universe of like Victorian England about ornithologists competing to find this magical bird. And it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but it made me laugh and smile, and it was one of my favorite books I read last year. But the second book in the series, which I've been very anxious to read, was on this list that Shondaland created. The new book is called The Geographer's Map to Romance by India Holton.
Colin's picking up a copy.
I would recommend picking it up.
Yeah, well, Lecky, thank you. Obviously, there's so much more to discuss, but we'd never be able to cover it all in this. Lots happening. Lots more to come, I'm sure. Also, we're trying our best, aren't we, with 308 Part 2? Do you want to update people?
Yes, we are working tirelessly to get these last 2 rewatches out to you hopefully before the season drops. We did have to hire some outside help to do it, so I just wanted to give our Patreon members a special shout out for helping make that possible, because we have been dealing with a lot on the podcast, and we are very anxious to get that out to you as soon as possible. It still will take some time because we're perfectionists, but we are doing our best to get it out to you as soon as we can.
Absolutely. But for now, get the kettle on. Should we sit on a sofa and pour ourselves a cup of tragedy? But should we jump straight in, because there is a lot to cover?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
If you remember the end of last episode, we finally got our friends to lovers down the aisle. Good, tick. After a pretty tense episode 7, things were looking bleak in episode 7, and then they were looking slightly less bleak. Then they were despairing. Then a hand went up a dress, and things seemed to be a little bit more hopeful.
Yeah.
We had a nod, we had a little dance, a wedding, and then a disastrous end to the wedding night. How are we going to patch things back up in just one episode? Well, it's episode 8, guys. I'm sure they'll find a way. Woo. It's a question we continue to ask ourselves even a year later, so let's jump in. Lady Veg, clear your voice one last time and give us the last summary of the season.
Oh no.
What can we expect to fit in this one little episode?
Oh, dearest gentle listener. Penelope steps into the light of the living room to see her husband, but he's sulking and moody. What a sad, sad start to the marriage. The blackmail plot of the book unfolds before our eyes as Cressida lets Penelope know that she knows. But Portia doesn't know we know she knows.
Oh no.
Portia finds out, and Colin finds out about the blackmail, and everything is finally out in the open. And it's a race for Colin to be the worst husband possible.
Objection.
And Penn to actually get everything sorted before the secret comes out in a scandalous way. Elsewhere in the ton, Benedict menages à trois, and we have the second joining of hands of the season, with Fran and John becoming man and wife. They plan a trip to the Highlands. Eloise joins so she can finally see the world by way of rural Scotland, and Fran meets an intriguing woman. We end the episode at a delectably insectly ball. a delectably insecty ball where everything comes to a head. Penelope is revealed to the ton as Lady W, and our happy couple finally become happy. Woohoo! They shag and wave off the new Kilmartins and Eloise. And as we flash forward, do you hear the pitter-patter of little ginger feet? There's a new Lord Featherington on the scene. Let's hope he's better with money.
Rest in peace, Archie.
Stunning. Why don't we just say that's the rewatch there? Save us a few hours.
Yeah.
You've gone out with a bang there, babe.
That was great.
Oh, thanks, Slack.
And let's begin with our couple caught up in newlywed bliss with a sad boy on the sofa. Or is that how we're beginning, Lecky?
Originally, this episode began with Penn waking alone in bed.
Great.
Just to dial up the despair a little bit. Absolutely tragic. But the scene description read, the morning after their wedding, we find Penelope alone in her new bed. She opens her eyes, remembering all that occurred the night before. She forces herself up, throwing on a robe and walking out to...
The sad boy on the sofa?
Yes. I'm kind of glad they cut this moment inside Penn's bedroom. I think it would have been just a little too depressing to start off our episode 8. This is the morning after their wedding, after all, and things are bad enough.
Well, instead, we are treated to a sad teacup Colin, one of the many loves of my life. How is he looking, Veg?
Sad teacup Colin is matching his spirits in a blue waistcoat with leaf detailing, a top coat and blue cravat. Very fitting.
We find him fully dressed, untouched tea in hand with a pillow and a fateful blue blanket noticeably sat next to him. Slightly less happy memories today, but someone spent the night on the sofa, evidently. If you remember, we spotted that pillow in the part 2 promo, so we knew what we were in for. We knew he was sleeping on the sofa to make a point. It's pretty bleak to think this is how their wedding ended up, but honestly, after a year and a half, I think it's very funny to see how upset and grumpy he looks on the sofa, very much wanting to make a point to her. And in fact, Worrying Poet asked how long was Colin sat there with his teacup waiting for Pen to wake up?
Oh.
Was he there for hours? Did he need to order multiple cups of tea to make sure he was right there when she opened the door?
Yes.
Giving maximum drama king. I think absolutely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's like so neatly ready with his little angry cup of tea, just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I like the idea that she really slept in that morning and really wound him up more and more.
Yeah. Ready to announce that he's going to leave and that she doesn't have to join him instead of just leaving without her.
How many times do you think he'd been running that over in his head as well? He was like, I'm going to sound so commanding if I say it like this. Crying on the inside.
Yeah.
Aww. But it is cute because obviously you have the recurring theme through this episode where his anger blocks him from being emotionally and physically intimate with her, right? That's why they couldn't spend their wedding night together. It's why he turns her down later on. But he does still need to be near her. So like this is the closest he can possibly be without being next to her, which is very sweet. Sensitive boy being very sensitive as always.
And we love a sad teacup Colin. This very much feels like a successor to the awkward teacup Colin that we also got back in 204. We just love him. And I absolutely love the Foley work here as well. There's like a little tinkling sound you hear as he fiddles with his teacup before the door opens behind him. And the door opens like super loudly into like the quiet of the room.
I really like the framing of the shot as well because you're on his level in this shot, whereas Pen feels a bit more isolated and like he's got the power in this situation. Whereas later when you have this repeat scene at the beginning before Fran's wedding, the shot's a little bit higher, so you're more with Pen. She has the dominance in the scene. But for now, we're very much in stressed out sad boy teacup Colin's world. But out steps a very downcast Penelope, tying the ribbon on her dressing gown. Veg, how is she looking?
Pen looks devastatingly beautiful in this scene. She's effectively makeupless as far as the canon of the show goes, but she has a flush in her cheeks and a blush on her lips, which really adds to her vulnerability. The nightgown she has on is really similar to the nightgown that she wears in the dream sequence in Ep 303, including the puffed up sleeves of Colin's dreams, which is just a tragic memory to harken back to now. It's beaded and embroidered and deserves to be avidly taken off her in my opinion. Just saying. Her hair is back to being more curled. It looks a little bit like her natural waves are breaking through the sleeker style of the night before.
Pen offers a tentative greeting before asking how he slept. We can see the hurt and anger on Colin's face, not to mention how tightly he's clutching his cup of trage-tea. Interestingly, though, she can't see his face because like he's turned to us, so she's got no idea what she's walking into.
And the script reads, there's a simmering silence between them before Colin rises and begins putting on his coat.
Colin finally turns to look at her, nice of you to do so, babe, as he pointedly tells her that he slept fitfully. He informs her he's off to Bridgerton House for breakfast, something he could have done at the crack of dawn, quite frankly, had he not wished to wait until she woke up to make such a big point. Pen doesn't want him to leave because Portia is due over. How embarrassing for poor Pen on like her wedding morning. For a start, why is your mum coming around on the morning after your wedding?
Yeah, true.
Oh yeah.
She's like, I need to see where we're at with the air race. Like, give me a full briefing.
Oh god, so true.
The air situation.
But Colin insists that he's off and dramatically slams the door, leaving his new bride all alone.
Continuing with the tragic theme, this scene description gives us some insight into Pen's thoughts as Colin departs, saying, he throws her a quick, cool look before departing. We're on Penelope a long moment as she contemplates, is this what their marriage is going to look like now? Living separate lives like this.
That's so tragic because that's the household she grew up in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, that's the world she's fought to escape.
To be a stranger in your own home.
Yeah.
I know. And he won't even look at her. I mean, he did say at the entrapment scene, he was like, we'll get married and then we'll decide what the relationship's going to be like. So maybe she should sit him down and be like,
I'd be like, we're going to talk this out right now.
You're a communicator, aren't you, though, Beans? I'm an avoider. I'm more like Colin, passive-aggressive all the way.
Yeah. I'm not passive-aggressive.
Someone, however, is enjoying this scene.
I love their whole setup of their house. For a start, I love how it's just decorated in Colin's shit from his travels.
Yeah, seashells up the yin-yang.
He's just brought all the trinkets and just whacked them all up.
Yeah.
But I love, there's like a little skull of, I don't even know what animal it is.
Some sort of beast, animal. Cow?
Like a beast just like lingering on the shelf, like watching in. It's like, do you know one of those paintings where it has like a, what do you call it? Oh God, like you turn and like there's a skull
Yes.
that's been hidden.
Oh yeah.
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 And like it's like a bleak tragedy of like life and death. It feels like there's just this spectre in the whole of the scene, just like a skull.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it's grinning.
Yeah, it's having a great time. At least someone is, because this is a fucking bleak way to begin a marriage, isn't it? Do you think we'd get to this point, guys, where we'd get them married and then they wouldn't even speak to one another?
No. I guess I didn't really think about... No, I thought about it quite a bit, actually.
I've got many hours of you thinking about it quite a bit.
That's what I was just going to say, yeah.
I'll give you 4 words.
Well, we just thought like by now it would be like Polin against the world.
Yeah, 4 words. Polin against the world.
Yeah.
Nowhere to be found.
Yeah. Instead, we got... What we nicknamed the skeleton, by the way, was the spectator of spousal strife. So that's what we got.
Did you sign up for spousal strife? Is that what you were here for?
No.
Honestly, well, there is really no rest for the wicked because Ray knocks on the door to let Pen know that she has a visitor. I mean, I assume it's Portia, right? We have a busy day ahead of us, but I firstly have to say, oh my God.
Illusion. Optical illusion.
There's like a specific name for the art though.
Oh.
I literally have it on one of my like literature textbooks in the other room, but I can't remember what that painting is, where if you tilt it, you see the skull. It's like a famous painting and there's like a skull hidden in it.
I like couldn't rest until I figured out what it was.
Op art?
Sorry?
Op art?
Oh my God, my Siri just shouted at me. Op art, it might be.
I thought that was a cow mooing.
Yeah.
Me too.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Stop talking. Stop talking. Sorry, my Siri's really going off.
We've had how many episodes and we're still professional as ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be professional when we get a professional salary.
Yeah, this is it. Hans Holbein, the younger, and the painting is called The Ambassadors.
Welcome to the House of Holbein. It's Hans Holbein. Can firmly attest. Anyway, there's a painting. It's got a skull in it. I'd rather look at that than look at this, quite frankly. But here we are. This is what we signed up for. Veg, Ray has got a hot new outfit, hasn't she? Tell me everything. You know, the girl's gone up in the world.
Yes, a big congrats to our newly promoted housekeeper Ray. Honestly, she deserves it after having to cover for Polin courting scandal in part 1. She's wearing a fab, rich, dark blue high-neck dress, which is lightly lined and is covered with a dark mesh layer on top. It suits her a lot better than the yellow-green of part 1. As our fab listener, Purple Cat Doctor, says, how amazing does Ray look in her housekeeper attire? I know all the evidence suggests she's not in season 4. Pause on that thought, Purple Cat Doctor. But I really want to see her. Do you think she got the sack when they moved back to Featherington House? I like to think maybe she took all the money she earned from Colin's bribes and has started a business. Maybe we'll see her run a hiring agency for staff that Sophie could sign up with. Not going to happen, but I can dream. Well, dream away, Purple Cat Doctor, because we've got confirmation recently that she will indeed be in season 4. Delightful. Personally, I'm hoping that Pen has earned herself enough leverage in the Featherington House to bring Ray with her. So we don't know what extent she'll be in the season, but we are definitely glad.
But back to that pesky visitor. Pen assumes it's Portia, who's arrived a little early and heads off to get ready. And as she walks down the corridor to the drawing room, we get a little bit more of that look at the rest of Polin's very blue and very yellow apartment. For the eagle-eyed amongst you, you'll notice that this corridor is actually the same corridor that they use at Featherington House. They just redressed it to make it look like a different location.
Speaking of Featherington House, Polin's apartment also has some Featherington flair. It's actually a really sweet mashup of both Colin and Penelope's backgrounds, including touches that relate to Colin's travels, as well as the Featheringtons' citrus color scheme and affection for yellow. Production designer Alison Garchor referred to the display cabinets as cabinets of curiosity, filled with artifacts from Colin's grand tour that he brought home with him from his travels. As we have noted on the pod in the past, he also returned home with approximately 50 pounds of seashells. I feel sorry for whoever had to pack and carry them into both Bridgerton House and now Polin's apartment. But moving on, Alison also stated that the wall color is supposed to be a darker shade of Bridgerton blue, which I just really love this darker shade of Bridgerton blue. And it seems like we may see some touches of that darker blue in Polin's new home in the kind of redressed Featherington House in season 4. So I'm looking forward to seeing that as well. Alison also noted that there are hints of yellow throughout Polin's apartment to suggest a Featherington presence. I'm really in awe of how much thought the entire team put into this place, especially considering it really was only used for 1 season. I imagine they reused some of the pieces in the Featherington House in season 4, but they put so much thought into the space that Polin exists in for just a short time. In the design materials I believe they submitted for Emmy consideration, for example, there is even a little mock-up of a fireplace in Polin's apartment with notes about their intention to include gold accents and even yellow veins in the marble, all hinting at that Featherington presence in Polin's home. And if you've been listening to the pod for some time, you know we are huge fans of Colin's yellow sheets, which Alison Garchor recently confirmed on Instagram was an intentional design choice. This is why we are so gone for Polin and for Bridgerton in general. So much thought and care is put into into this world, and I love that a fictional character also apparently put so much thought into his sheets. My word, we absolutely live for these details.
But anyway, is that really Portia waiting inside the room for her, Lecky?
Unfortunately not. Pen hasn't had a great night, and it doesn't look as though her day will be getting much better either, as she walks through the door to find Cressida, not Portia. Just who you want to see the morning after your wedding. You're like childhood bully. Sadly, Cressida is not there to pass along her congratulations. Instead, she's turned up with a helpful little blackmail plot for us all to deal with in one episode. Great timing all around.
Pen is still pretty distracted by her troubles with Colin, so is not expecting this particular caller. Book fans, you will have expected her though, because this scene is straight out of Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, when Cressida turned up to pretty much do what she's doing here, saying, I know who you are, give me the money. Although in the book, Cressida put the pieces together herself, where it's been handed to her on a very printed platter, thanks to the printer's apprentice.
She's like, I have a particular set of skills.
Yeah.
Blackmail.
Give
me money.
Here we go. You wanted a villain.
I do like how Pen blinks a few times after Cressida comments about her wedding night. Like, you have no fucking idea how it's gone for me.
Also, Cressida, how do you know about wedding nights, babe? But Cress is just here simply paying a visit to Lady Whistledown. The girl's been had.
No, she hasn't really.
Oh, she hasn't been had, I suppose. That's a fucking problem, isn't it? That's half the problem.
Yeah.
Imagine not getting any the night before, and then you wake up, Cressida's there, and she's blackmailing you. Like, fuck off. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you think I've got time for this?
She's having a hard day, for sure. Yeah.
But Pen tries to deny it, but babe, there's no point. Your cover's gone. Cressida has irrefutable evidence in the form of that random printer apprentice, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
His word against...
Who once heard of a redhead, who heard that Lady Whistledown might be a redhead.
The infamous only redhead.
Which doesn't make any sense, because the printer believes the redhead is Lady Whistledown's assistant. So that's all I have to say. That's really annoying.
You're telling me there's a plot hole, Lecky, in episode 8? Stuff it right there, you scoundrel. Well, I mean, there's no need to work it out for yourself when the printing press is on hand.
But now that you mention it, it does make sense to Cressida that Pen is Lady Whistledown because of how forgettable she is.
Oh, the girl's had a shit enough time as it is, Cress.
Also, this isn't super interesting, but Cressida originally said, as I am pretending to be under lock and key. Clearly, they cut this to reinforce the idea that Cressida is still trapped and can't just escape when she would like to.
The lock is firmly on. Pen's thrilled to hear that Cressida is heading out of town, but bad luck, babe. She's not off to Wales anymore, it's off the cards, and she wants you to fund her trips abroad. Obviously, Wales is a no-go. We can't go to Scotland because Elle's going there. So the only place left in the world of Bridgerton is, of course, Vienna.
Right.
Where else does anyone go?
Yeah.
She can hook up with the Modiste, share an apartment, live a happy life. Now, there would be a good spin-off.
Yeah, it'd be like, they're like roommates, Cressida and the ruined Modiste.
And they were roommates.
And they were roommates.
Yeah.
100%. Cressida wants £10,000, which is 2,000 cows, guys, or else Pen's true identity will be revealed. In a spot of very unfortunate timing, Portia walks in at that very moment where Cressida happily reveals her true identity right to her mother. Whoops! Cressida means business, and you better fetch that chequebook, Pen. I love the way that Cressida just drops it. She's just immediately like, try me. Bam, there you go. Walks out, leaves you to the disaster. For like 0.2 seconds in the story, there's stakes. There might not be for the rest of the episode and for anyone else finding out. But I like the way she reveals it to Portia too. She sort of breadcrumbs the different parts of Penelope's traits, like sets it up for her to be like, how the fuck did you not see this?
Yeah.
But on that truth bomb, off she heads. Lecky, can you give us a quick update on the Doom Tree, though?
What Doom Tree? Where is the Doom Tree?
Right.
Clear skies.
Yeah.
I made that note. Yeah.
Birds tweeting, the sun is shining, a gentle breeze in the air.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense. Bring back the Doom Tree. The Doom Tree would be all over this episode. The Doom Tree should be growing like a beanstalk right now. Do you know what I mean? Over Mayfair.
It's burnt to the ground. It's been felled.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that the Doom Tree is having a nice time anyway. And we're straight back into Portia Pen and the Whistledown fallout. How is she taking the news, Lecky?
Not great, although now that Cressida has mentioned it, a lot is falling into place for Portia. It turns out that Portia has noticed Pen disappearing from balls, but always thought it was because she was socially exhausted.
Same.
As she continues, there are echoes of Colin's accusations from the last episode and Portia's argument as she blasts Pen for all of the terrible things she has written about her sisters, about Portia, about herself, and how Pen has been sowing the seeds of their ruin all along. Pen has been working against Portia at every turn, and she's even less thrilled to find out that Colin also knows. Portia wants Pen to keep the blackmail from Colin because because then he would have grounds for an annulment, but Penn insists that she will tell him.
Oh.
Although that idea of an annulment will stay in the back of Penn's mind for later, she then heads off to get dressed to visit Bridgerton House.
I mean, they've not consummated, so the grounds are there. They've been ploughed. Well, they haven't been ploughed. I suppose that's a problem.
Yeah.
Well, guys, here we go. One episode to resolve the blackmail plot. I'll find a happily ever after if we can. Get a few people married along the way. Let's see how it goes. Well, it sounds as if we should have a lot on our plate already, but Lecky, I'm in the mood for a little game of chess. You got any ideas where I can go?
Fortunately for you, we are taking a trip to the palace to find Lady Danbury and the Queen already in the middle of a game of chess, although as Queen Charlotte suggests, the game will not last long, believing she is closer than ever to uncovering Lady Whistledown. Lady Danbury seems to know this as well, and likely now knows who the true Lady Whistledown is. She's busy fishing for information as to what consequences Penelope is going to face.
Beheading.
We always had a feeling that Queen Charlotte hadn't really thought about what she would do once she caught the scribe, and this is actually confirmed in the scene description for this scene.
Mm-hmm.
After Lady Danbury asks how she will handle the gossip writer once she's caught, wondering if the Queen might command her to stop writing or even lock her up in a dungeon, the scene description says, Queen Charlotte clearly has not thought that far ahead.
How would you punish her? Beans, what would you cook up?
A punish Penn?
If you were the Queen.
For her deadly crimes.
I would just be like,
I caught you.
yeah. I mean, like,
Well, you're in luck. I mean, if that's all you're after, we can rustle that up for you, babe.
I would also say, hey, why don't you let me in on the gossip before you published it? You know, give me like a little preview.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what the Queen would want.
Yeah.
Yes, a little teaser trailer of gossip. I think that's all she's after.
Yes.
Yeah, she just wants to feel good.
Because ultimately, I feel like that's what the Queen wants, right?
Yeah.
She like wants to know things before they're happening, and that's the thing. She wants to like be the person that's like, well, I already know about that. She hates being blindsided.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, let me know what's going on in the ton.
Yeah, she wants to be perceived as cunning and also hear the gossip first because she wants to be entertained.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like it would be easy to sort of not manipulate, but like find out what it was she wanted emotionally and just sort that out. And then she'd be absolutely no trouble at all.
Right, exactly.
A lot of people criticize Queen Charlotte for how she kind of like hand waves away the Lady Whistledown situation. But in the end, she never really wanted to catch Lady Whistledown. She kind of just wanted to win this game they were playing.
She just wanted the game.
And also, she just really likes gossip. Like, she doesn't want the gossip to end in the scheme of things. We've seen how miserable Queen Charlotte is when Lady Whistledown isn't writing.
Yeah.
Because she's always been a distraction. It's always been the thrill of the chase of it. And she hasn't thought that far ahead. And ultimately, like, she's not done anything so damningly wrong that deserves, like, public execution or banishment. So, yeah, it is quite funny that she's just not thought that far ahead. You've only had 3 years now, so
yeah.
She's got a kingdom, though.
And Lady Danbury basically goes on to plead Penn's case, suggesting that Lady Whistledown is not trying to beat Queen Charlotte at her own game, but to stay in the game. And she remarks that Lady Whistledown may feel vulnerable in a way that Queen Charlotte used to herself. The scene description goes on to say, the Queen tries not to show how this is landing on her, but clearly it is, just a little. Lady Danbury then surprises Queen Charlotte by not checkmating her, prompting Lady Danbury to remark that then the game would be over early, and where is the fun in that? Good point, Lady Danbury. The Queen is then left pondering Lady Danbury's words.
And this is going to come up, well, I mean, I hope it's going to come up next year, because I think what's frustrating about this episode is you get no fallout for the Queen. Like, she's wanted this for 2 years and you don't really see an impact. But what'll be interesting is she's very much caught up in the exposing of the game. But what lies when the game's finished? Is it going to be frustrating for her? Is she going to try and control Penn in a different way to keep things interesting?
Yeah.
It's like, what's the after party of the game that you've been playing? But how our listener Late said, we know that during the chess game, Lady D is manipulating the Queen into going light on Whistledown when she discovered her identity. Lady D challenges the Queen to think about what she will do when she finds her. As you say, will she lock in a dungeon? She knows the Queen lives for the missives. Danbury's just trying to make sure the Queen doesn't end up killing her biggest form of entertainment. And then Late also says that Brimsley, even Brimsley of all people, is smiling as Lady Danbury is sort of manipulating the Queen. He also understands how important Whistledown is to the Queen's way of life. And he understands what Danbury is doing in manipulating the Queen. But the Queen doesn't realise what Danbury's up to, does she? She's sort of blind to this open manipulation in front of her. But again, it raises that question. Obviously, Danbury wants to protect Penn, but then it is a valid point. What comes after the game? We'll see if they cover it in season 4, I guess. Meanwhile, we're off for a little Dankworth Finch promenade. But who is that lurking behind them, Lecky?
If you look closely, you can actually spot Will and Alice behind the Dankworth Finch party, and they were having a chat of their own. In another cutscene, Will and Alice discuss the cousin they met last episode, and they seem pleased that he's left town. Will's worried, however, about what might happen when Mr. Davis, the cousin, returns to, quote, foist his daughter upon them. But Alice basically says they don't have to worry about that for a season at least. Will then replied that, quote, the seasons change sooner than you think, which I think may have been a little nod to season 4 and how maybe the seasons are going to change a little bit in season 4.
Perhaps.
Also, in the script, it specifically mentions that this promenade is taking place on an overcast, gloomy day, so they definitely wanted to make a point of the changes to come, hinting, as we now know, that season 4 will mostly take place in the fall.
Also, they were filming this in dead winter in England. So, like, the scriptwriters being, whilst it's cloudy. And the last little bit of the cutscene would have seen Will dramatically pulling his coat a little bit tighter against the chill, because we then angle on another chilly set of people, which is when we go back into the promenade with Dankworth, Finch, Prudence, and Philippa.
And Dankworth mentions that they should soon be readying their autumnal wardrobe, again hinting towards the changing in the seasons that we now know to expect from season 4. As the Finches enjoy their marital bliss, Prudence laments that Penelope is busy getting the attention of the Ton, and as the sisters are both pregnant, they will soon be expected to retreat from society. Inspired to go out with a big bang, Prue decides that they're going to throw a ball based on the colors purple and orange. Lovely. Philippa also declares, we can have bugs. Bugs! If you remember, Philippa was apparently reading a book about bugs in Penelope's room before the wedding, and that clearly inspired her bug-themed ball idea here. And there is also some commentary in the script here as Finch and Dankworth worry about the swiftly ballooning budget for their bug ball. The scene description states, off the men wishing they'd married more frugal sisters.
Oh, it's such a cute little moment that they have, as well as the two trail behind them like, shit. Well, don't worry. I know someone with some pretty deep pockets, but we'll come to that a little bit later. Well, good luck with the party planning, you two. I personally can't wait for an invite. But in the meantime, let's head over to Gunter's to check in on our newly engaged Frohn.
After last episode, Frohn's engagement is no longer a secret, and so we find them on an awkward outing with Violet, who is on high alert after the Queen declared that Lady Whistledown had to be a Bridgerton. Fortunately, Violet knows well enough as the matriarch of the household that no member of her family is Whistledown. I wouldn't hold your breath there, Violet.
Violet decides the best way to refute the Queen's accusation is to be seen in public. Honestly, have these three ever had like a nice outing together where there hasn't been some sort of conflict between them?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. And good news, though, the Frohn wedding is definitely still going ahead. Quicker than we thought, actually, as Fran announces they're going to get a special licence and promptly move to the Highlands of Scotland as soon as possible. This is what happens when your parents don't support you much, Violet. Don't turn around.
I mean, yeah.
In about 10 minutes and be like, I can't believe you're leaving me forever.
I understand it. Yeah, for sure. And as Violet is left reeling over the news that Francesca is leaving home yet again, it's time for us to head back to Bridgerton House because, if you remember, we have a blackmail plot to resolve in the next 50 minutes.
Time is ticking, babe. Let's get to it. Colin did say he was going to head over to Bridgerton House for breakfast. Did he turn up, Lecky?
Is this my scene heading that you left in here from my notes?
Well, Lecky in the notes has written, I do not care about this scene. Pen gets sidelined by her loved ones.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for you, Lecky, you have to speak about it.
Okay.
I take it you're not thrilled to, but have you found him?
Okay, yes. Well, Colin, our sad boy, has swapped his sad sofa for an uncomfortable-looking wooden chair. I find this absolutely hilarious. It's so dramatic.
I love him being dramatic in different places, yeah.
Yes. He can't even brood in an armchair, let alone look at the biscuit cushion. So he's off on this very uncomfortable-looking wooden chair in the corner. But his brooding is then cut short as Eloise enters the room. When she asks how he is, he just says, try not to think about yesterday, his wedding day. That was cheerful.
Oh my God.
Veg, you're going to lose patience with this soon, aren't you? Eloise tries to reassure Colin that the family will be fine. Veg, I think it was you who the other episode was like, I'm so sick of him bringing up the family every 5 minutes as an excuse for why he's upset. And he's doing it again here.
Yeah.
Elle points out they've been through plenty of scandal in their time and they've survived time and time again, albeit with a few scars. Colin is listening right until Eloise tries to reach out and advise him not to let his marriage be the scar.
Good point.
I really like the way that this is shot, actually, because they're sat in opposite directions. So they're not really seeing eye to eye, and he's got his back away from the room where Pen's going to walk in.
Sitting across a chessboard.
And another chessboard, another chess game. And Eloise is trying to reach out, but he is physically turned the other direction. He doesn't want to hear it. Colin stands to walk away from Eloise, who is trying to convince him that Colin already knows he will eventually resolve things with Penelope anyway. But speaking of Penelope,
Pen walks in at that very moment, and apparently Colin's not all that pleased to see her. The scene description states, Colin's eyes flash with anger as Pen enters. Thank you. I absolutely hate this.
Great.
Well, damn.
But Penelope has not come alone, as Portia is also in tow, and Colin tries to keep up appearances in front of his new mother-in-law, but Penelope quickly tells him to drop the act. Portia knows that he's pissed off with her. Again, cheerful.
Well, in more cheerful news, how is she looking, Reg? Because am I right in saying we've got a little reduce, reuse, recycle moment happening?
Reduce, reuse, recycle.
Thank you so much.
Beautiful, babes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Pen is wearing a dress in seafoam blue-green and cap sleeves. Pen has a purple shawl. It's in some sort of ombre purple. Now, we know that purple, specifically lilac, represents first love in the world of Bridgerton, but that is not the context in which we are seeing it now.
Maybe Pen wanted to put on a dress that kind of suits the awkwardness of this moment, harkening back to the awkwardness of the Willow Tree scene. Either way, welcome back, Willow Tree, promo Pen, who I think we named for the outfit game on Patreon. Nothing of the kind will happen again, Pen. And I guess the dress did happen again, Pen, so we stand corrected.
Big fan of the outfit and nice to see her back. Well, at least we're getting things out in the open, right? Colin knows, Elle knows, Portia knows. Eventually, Portia knows. She might be the last one, but we've got there eventually. But there is something that the Bridgerton siblings don't know yet, though. That Cressida has uncovered Pen's identity and wants £10,000. Once again, that's 2,000 cows she's after, or 1,757 quarters of wheat if seeing Wicked for Good has stirred a scarecrow fetish within her.
I have so many thoughts about Wicked for Good, but this is a different podcast.
Well, we touched on it in the intro, babe. What are you thinking about Fiera Scarecrow?
He looks like Ryan Reynolds. Didn't enjoy the second part as much as the first.
Same.
I'll say that.
Ditto.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a good summary. But on the bright side, this scene did answer a mystery that has plagued us for some time. As I mentioned last episode, there were rumors that Cressida originally found out that Pen was Lady Whistledown after overhearing a conversation back at the wedding reception, which I believe Jess Madsen mentioned to a fan at like a fan event or something like that. But anyway, this is actually confirmed in the original script for this episode. After Eloise asks how Cressida discovered Pen, Pen replies by saying, she overheard us last night, meaning at the wedding reception. But she now says in the final edit, I am not sure, but I personally would have liked the original better where Cressida overheard them at the wedding reception. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it last episode, but I just don't understand why you would change it to make a character less intelligent. Do you know what I mean? Like, you take Cressida having the agency to sort of sneak over and figure it out herself, and you change that into her just sort of stumbling across the answer and having it just given to her. It's sort of a lesser dilution. I don't know.
If I had to rationalize it, I'm guessing the writers were trying to explain why Cressida was at the wedding, because in the past, Cressida's already sought out Eloise's help, and Eloise turns her away at the banns in 306. So maybe they were like, okay, what would Cressida do next? She would try to get some money from that fake issue of Lady Whistledown, and maybe she could discover Penelope's identity that way. The clumsiness is in the printer's apprentice at some other printing shop saying, oh, I heard she was a redhead.
Yeah.
Because that's... It just...
Because that's all the connection you need.
Right.
It's like they've just got married. We know there are a lot of redheads in town.
Right.
We saw them at the wedding. There's fucking hundreds of them.
Yeah. It could be Portia, for all Cressida knows. Like, why does it go immediately to Penelope?
For me, I think the other reason I really wanted Cressida to overhear it, well, for a start, the fact that they changed it meant that you had all the reshoots.
Yes.
Which...
Hate them.
We don't like the reshoots.
No.
Like, it interrupts it. Even the reshoot later when Colin's gone to see Cressida, and like it's in the middle of a conversation and it's so noticeable. And I think that again is because they had to reshoot it because she alluded to overhearing the conversation. So it has a knock-on effect of those reshot scenes. But also, I think Penelope should have been found out by being overheard, because that's literally the way she's found out the secrets of everyone in the ton. Like, she is always overheard. She's always been listening in. She's always been sneaking around, gathered all the secrets, then revealed them. I feel like it would have been really fitting that she would have been found out in the same way by, you know, sort of her nemesis, her counterpart. The whole season we've had this parallel between these two characters. It would have been really fitting had Cressida been the one to overhear and then hold that piece of information, and it be a power play between these two women whose currency is usually knowledge and information and 2,000 cows.
Yes. And I think you'd have to find a different way to do that, because I was thinking, what would the alternative have been if Cressida had stumbled across Penelope as she was picking up her Lady Whistledown earnings? But then that's a repeat of the end of 306 and the early 307. So maybe that would seem repetitive. So like, oh, we have to do something different. But in the end, it doesn't make as much sense. So if they'd found a reason...
I like the book version.
If they found like a compelling reason for Cressida to be at the wedding reception, I just feel like that would have worked better.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, maybe like a last-ditch attempt to speak to Eloise or something like that.
Or maybe she could have begged Eloise to go pick up her Lady Whistledown earnings because she can't be away from home very long or something.
I think I just preferred the way this was done in the book, where Penelope was clumsy in her writing.
And repeats the same words or something.
And she said something and didn't expect someone to pick up on it.
Yep.
And they almost teased that earlier in episode 6. Like she had that sort of use of, break my heart.
Yeah.
That would have showed a lot of cunning that would have aligned with Cressida's character to sit and put the pieces together. So it is quite clumsy. But regardless, she's been found out. And there's a blackmail in play.
After Colin says, if she knows, we must prevent her from revealing it, meaning Penelope's secret, the scene description notes that Penelope is surprised by Colin's readiness to defend her, but our old friend Hero, and I guess purpose, Colin, has been activated, and he will not stand for anyone blackmailing his wife. And the scene description notes that, in fact, Colin seems to be coming alive, puffed with sudden purpose. Portia is practically swooning. Amusingly, there are a lot of asides like this about Portia appreciating Colin's readiness to fight for her and to protect their family in the scene description throughout this episode, setting up the adoration will probably be seen from her in season 4. But Colin has decided he needs to do everything to stop Cressida from revealing the truth. Penelope thanks him but says she doesn't need his help. She will handle it herself, and she just wanted to be honest with Colin. Unfortunately, he doesn't take that well and says, it is not up to you what we do.
Lucky's favourite line in the season. Sorry, here. This is like the one bit that you haven't got over, I don't think, is it?
I really don't like it. I kind of understand where he's coming from, but I really don't like it. It's the dismissiveness of it. It's just... This and his inability to look at Pen in the entrapment scene, like there's something about being ignored or dismissed that kind of, like you in like that Mr. Bean scene with like the car. There's something about...
It's not going to make any sense if you're not on Patreon. Jesus, what do these do?
Oz really doesn't like this Mr. Bean sketch where he's really happy and his car's getting destroyed behind him. Yeah. There's something to me about like a loved one being really dismissive of you or like deliberately not even acknowledging you or something like that. Maybe it's like...
Well, that literally characterizes their relationship because she's always been dismissed by everyone around her, everyone in the world.
Yeah.
And this is the one person who hasn't done that.
Yeah.
In recent memory. He did it last year, but... And it's like your safe place being weaponized against you.
Yes. Not my favorite.
And now a listener, Worrying Poet, said, that line from Colin, I hate that line. Yeah. I get he's trying to save the day, but I just don't think it fits with our consent king's character. Would you remove it if you could? And why not? Would you remove it?
I think I would.
Yeah.
But I will also, I think, later explain why I think the writers included it. But like, I don't like it. I don't like it. Sorry.
No, me neither.
Our listener G said, I've always interpreted the controversial it's not up to you line as it is up to us, the both of us, you shouldn't make decisions alone. As frankly, Pen did some very questionable things so far, which makes her a compelling character. But upon rewatch, I can see why it might be a trigger for the viewers. What do you think Colin should have said here? I would agree with G that I get kind of what he's saying because she constantly takes so much out of his hands. He's always, well, not the second to last to know, I suppose Portia's the last to know, but he's always finding things out much later than he should have done. And so it's already this really sore spot for him. So I agree, he's not really saying it's not up to you, it's up to me I think why it's uncomfortable is it's like a very like dominant husband thing to say to her, like,
yes,
you don't get a say.
Yeah.
I also don't think he is saying it is up to us.
No.
This is very much hero Colin.
Him being the hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, I understand where the impetus comes from as him being like, you've already done so much without me knowing. And this is another way that I'm being blindsided. I want to be the one in control of this. But it is his hero complex in the worst sort of format of that, isn't it?
Yeah. And it's so close to the end.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
He gets to being like an active feminist at the end of the episode. And here he's like the opposite. And I know it's not that deep, but it's hard to accept that from him.
Well, it's like a jarring point to have when we've got 20 minutes left or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what else would you have had him say? It's hard because in this moment, he's so in his own excitement about having the chance to prove himself that it is like an unfortunate byproduct of that, where he kind of does mean, I'm going to sort this out now.
Yeah. I feel like the content of the scene would remain much the same, where he would say something to the effect of like, you do not need to do that, meaning you do not need to pay her. This is something we should deal with like together.
Yeah.
But in the process, Penelope could still feel a little sidelined because, you know, she does have a solution. He just doesn't want to accept her solution. He wants to find a solution himself. Yeah. But I just would not have him say that line.
I think the delivery of it or the phrasing of it is particularly harsh, is not up to you what we do.
Yeah.
There's like a power element to that.
Yeah.
That just actually silence her. Like, what does the script say?
So after Portia says that it's a relief that Colin will help them, more tragic scene description follows. As Pen says, please, if you'll just let me, the script reveals she was going to say speak. But once again, Colin talks over her and Pen's resolve falters. As Colin continues to chart the path forward without any insight from his wife, Eloise and Portia nod in agreement. And the script tells us that Pen is left feeling like she is metaphorically and literally fading into the background again. And that is underlined. So she's basically left feeling like a wallflower again, one whose voice doesn't matter, and the kind of person who started Lady Whistledown in the first place. It's very bleak stuff.
Yeah, it's like she tiptoed into the light and he was like, get back in the shadows. She's like, okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and it's that sense of purpose, isn't it? Like, he feels this tiny flicker of a chance to grab it.
Yeah.
And his attempt to grab it just bulldozes the entire sort of security that they found within one another.
Mm-hmm.
Our dear friend Purple Cat had more to say on this. She said, why would Colin say it's not up to you what we do? It seems so out of character for him. Any other husband of the time would have forbade Pen to continue Whistledown, but Colin never does. I guess maybe he's tired that Pen's every action of late has led to more disaster. He wants to have a go at causing problems.
Yes, that was it. Yeah.
He's like, hold my teacup.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. It's only made worse when Pen points out that she has the means to pay Cressida. In fact, she silences the entire room as everyone is shocked to know that she has made that much money. This, unfortunately, seems to anger Colin even more because it makes him feel even more useless to her.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the Medea scene, right?
Mm-hmm.
When he's like, what good am I to you then? It's like, this is the one thing that he has left, money, because he's a husband and he's a Bridgerton husband. And the one thing he's supposed to do in this society is provide for her financially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because she has this very modern role in sort of her relationship with her work and a place in society, it directly hits against that. So it really frustrates him yet again, where he's being challenged. And this is sort of the central tension for him this episode that he'll have to resolve, is when they have such a different relationship and he is naturally more sensitive and more supportive than the natural husband would have been at the time, how does he again fight against that last bit of societal expectation that he's been rallying against all season, to step back and say what he does in the finale, which is like, I'm just going to stand by the side and soak up your light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the issue with this episode is that
Just wasn't made clear enough.
I think we're missing a beat in the episode though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you go from this, they only really kind of speak again after the wedding, where you don't hear the full conversation because like we leave them before she tells the plan, and then we only hear him again at the bug ball. So there's like a beat missing in that journey, isn't there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is why this feels even more unfortunate. Regardless, it definitely riles him up even more and stops him listening to her, which is just what we need.
Colin sees this as an opportunity to prove his worth to Pen, something that has been bothering him for a few episodes now. But in doing so, he really takes away Pen's agency, much like his family took away his own agency back in 107, and maybe even as Pen did to him back in season 1 in reporting about Marina's pregnancy. So Pen is kind of getting a taste of her own medicine here.
It's like, well, what goes around?
Comes around. Yeah, indeed. But what is frustrating is that Colin has lived through this experience himself, with his family deciding how to respond to the Marina situation. He knows how it feels to be completely sidelined like this, which is why it's so difficult to watch him do it to a woman he loves. He was victimized and subsequently felt infantilized by his family's reaction, so I don't know if I fully believe that Colin would inflict that upon someone else, no matter how much he was hurting or even looking for a way to finally prove himself to Penelope. However, as I said, there is some poetic justice in that Pen's kind of getting a taste of her own medicine and having her own agency stripped from her.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's like, in a way you can understand, like, I've been in this position before and I hated it, so I'm going to inflict that on the next person kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But again, I think we're missing a beat because he never apologizes for it.
Yeah.
He acknowledges that he makes the situation worse with Cressida, but again, you're missing a beat.
I feel like the solution to this is something that Beans has brought up in the past, which is if Colin had accompanied Penelope to go see the Queen in person before the reveal at the bug ball, before she addressed the Ton, because we always felt like Penelope should go see the Queen. Mm-hmm. And here Colin is saying, like, Penelope, your opinion and your voice does not matter. So for him to tag along while she makes that decision and she expresses her thoughts and tries to make this deal with the Queen and showing that he supports her in that, I feel like that would have made a lot of difference.
Yeah.
A big difference.
And we will get to the scene in a bit, but the post-wedding scene, right, where she's like, I don't need you to do all of this grand stuff. I just need you to support me and love me and see me.
Right. Let's see it.
And then she's like, I have a plan.
Right.
And you then see the plan going into motion.
And he's removed from it.
But you don't see at any point where he's like, no, he should say, I'm going to trust you. And yeah, I'm going to go ahead, because here he took the agency away from her and he did something that was disastrous. You should have had a moment where he's like, I fucked up and I trust you completely. Let's go do this. I fully support you.
Yeah, I feel like that montage is one of the weakest parts of the episode because I feel like it's not satisfying in how the queen finds out.
It kind of does every storyline a bit of an injustice.
And then Colin doesn't even deliver the letter to Violet. Violet already has the letter and Colin just kind of walks down the stairs and is like, oh, we better talk. You've received the letter from my wife. Why isn't he even delivering the letter?
Because you get the insinuation there that he is in fully on the plan.
Right.
But you didn't see the moment where he was like, let's do it.
Wouldn't that be more significant if he was the one who literally handed the letter to his mother?
Yeah. On that note, our listener Zealous Girl said, not really a question, but rather an observation. And this, Lecky, ties into what you were saying, actually. One thing I've noticed as I rewatch earlier seasons is how the show mirrors Colin's and Penelope's past experiences. When Penelope goes to tell Colin Cressida has exposed her, he instantly snaps into let me fix this mode and totally steamrolls her feelings and opinions.
Yeah.
It hits the exact same beat as season 1, episode 7. In that scene, we call it the war room scene. His whole family basically talk over Colin when he's trying to solve it. And he says something along the lines of, I guess that's all settled. And, you know, he storms out the room and leaves them to it. It's like, I guess you're going to control my life then. It's the same energy, just reversed. I love these parallels because they really show how Penelope and Colin have been shaped by moments where they weren't really heard.
Yeah.
I think that's a really interesting perspective.
It's also really interesting in that Colin, in that instance in season 1, Daphne sought him out and realized that he wasn't happy with that resolution. And Daphne helped him go meet Marina in secret and find the resolution that would, you know, help him find closure.
Yeah.
Whereas Colin doesn't realize that Penelope is dissatisfied by the way this scene plays out.
Yeah.
Or Eloise even. Neither of them seek her out after this to try to resolve things more satisfactorily.
It's a best friend and a husband there. I love them. But hero Colin, we've seen him, we've loved him. He's caused chaos. He's fixed chaos before.
He's tugged on a balloon.
He's tugged on a balloon. Yeah. He's done many things. But he definitely shows his face here. Interestingly, Luke Newton spoke about hero Colin and this particular appearance. An interviewer asked him, what do you hate about him? Which is a bit of an intense question.
Oh my God.
Betty's there rolling a scroll.
Yeah, get me in. I'll sort you out.
He was following a question asking what he loved about the character. It made sense.
And Luke said his stubbornness and that he wants to be the hero all the time. There is a moment in season 3 where the drama kicks off and Penelope comes and breaks the news to him and he is excited by the drama. I told you he fucking loves the drama. It was not good news, but he was still excited about it. He rushes into it and makes it even worse, which we actually heard that quote before the season came out. So we anticipated a disaster like this happening.
Yeah.
At least the flaws are known. But how do we leave this very divisive scene then? Well, with Colin deciding that he will be the one to fix things, not Pen, he'll call upon Cressida tomorrow and reason with her. To which I say, good luck with that, Colin.
Good luck, pal.
I'm sure you're going to do great, babe. I mean, obviously in the books, Colin did definitely take things into his own hands and sort it out, but I don't have as good feelings about this time around, guys.
Later, we're treated to another cutscene. I've touched on this before, but at this point in the original script, Benedict sat down with the solicitor to sign some papers. It turns out that Antony had transferred everything to Benedict's name while he was away, and Benedict has a lot of signing to do.
I mean, I suppose he technically can do that, but what a turnaround from season 2 where he's like, duty is everything. And now he's like, good luck. Good luck in the House of Lords. Good luck making decisions for everyone in England.
To Antony's credit, and Benedict says the credit is now his, in episode 1, Antony was praising Benedict for how he handled everything while he was gone initially on his first honeymoon. So obviously he knows that Benedict is capable.
Safe hands.
Right, yeah. I wonder if this is the second time no, this has to be like the first time he's signed the signatures. So I think it's just like a little more official. Maybe it's because they're like literally going on a boat and boats are dangerous and like they could die. So in case like, can't any die?
Antony's just like, you'd be a great Viscount.
Yeah.
Have a go at it now. See how you get on.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the one thing I'll say about this cutscene is there's like a funny little moment where the solicitor sits him down and goes, the Viscount has transferred everything in your name temporarily while he's away. The estate books, the trust accounts for your siblings, the household finances. I will need approximately 47 signatures. And Benedict is for some reason horrified.
Oh, yeah.
At the number. And he goes, 47.
47. I could see him delivering that for sure.
Not 47.
Yeah. Also, the solicitor mentions the trust accounts for your siblings. So all the siblings have their own trust account, in case you were curious.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. And there is also an odd moment where Ben looks at Tilly's calling card and feels a sense of longing in the scene description. I'm guessing he's just pining for some action and not Tilly herself as he ends up rejecting her, but we move on.
Well, they're going to have a lot of hookups in the next 50 minutes, so
yeah,
that plot point will be quickly resolved. Well, speaking of Benedictine threesomes, let's go, because we then find Ben, Tilly, and Paul prepping for said threesome.
Interestingly, this scene was actually cut from last episode. If you look closely, Ben, Tilly, and Paul are wearing their outfits we saw them in during the scene when Ben first kisses Paul and agrees to the threesome. This is especially obvious when you look at Tilly's dress because she has like these like sharp pointed like edges on her bodice. Anyway, this scene was meant to come right after that, but they placed it here for some reason.
I like that they watched episode 8 and think something missing.
Yes.
I mean, it's very on theme. There's just something missing from this episode. Whack another one in.
Yep.
Well, it's the next day and Colin has some calling to do, I hear. He's going to head on over and straighten this little blackmail plot right out. We've got about 25 minutes left, so plenty of time.
Get to move on.
I, for one, have full faith in him. So off we go. We find him waiting for Cressida at Calber House, dressed very seriously for the occasion. I mean, Calber House is very dark, very bleak. The times are very dark, very bleak. Veg, how is he looking?
Colin has got an overcoat on to visit the Cowpers, so we'll discuss the under outfit later, though you can see a little ruffle and cravat poking out. The coat makes him look very sombre and serious, in my opinion.
I have to say, I love Bridgerton playing fast and loose with the rules of propriety, not just Colin. Here he wants a moment alone with Cressida, and even Lady Cowper is like, nah. And yet it happens anyway because the plot requires it.
It's scandalous. It's like he's a newly married man, and he's like, I would like private time with your unmarried daughter.
Yeah.
Plot twist.
But anyway.
Well, we have just Cressida and Colin alone in the room, ready for their showdown. As I say, the dark colours of the house and the set make this scene feel even heavier as Colin confronts her over blackmailing his wife. The one thing I will say about this episode, we definitely got Colin, my wife Bridgerton, showing up in full force. Do we always like it? No, but he's there, he's present and correct. After Cressida admits that she only trusts herself, Colin says, that must feel terribly lonely. I have known what it is like to be truly alone when I'm off on my travels. Unfortunately for Colin, Cressida is not down to hear about his gap year, and he can see that she is right and confesses that it is a privilege to travel, but this last year I found myself yearning to hear word from home, from Penelope, in fact. But I did not hear back from her, or anyone else for that matter. It felt as if everyone was busy with their lives without the need for me in them. So I attempted to harden myself into a man with no needs of his own. It is not a path I would recommend.
I think I died inside when I first saw the scene. I so badly wanted to know what Colin's travels were like, and if he felt Pen's absence and the absence of her letters, and to have him confirm that here was chef's kiss amazing. And Colin speaks of feeling that everyone was busy with their lives without a need for him in them, and I think the choice of need is interesting because it's so obvious that Colin just wants to be needed.
Yeah, I think the whole scene is it's really interesting. You get a really interesting mix of characters because you have Colin really opening up and confessing his deepest feelings to Cressida, of all people.
Yeah.
But I think we so needed to hear this perspective from Colin, especially after he's just had a slightly dodgy moment back at Bridgerton House.
Yeah.
I mean, we spent so much time with the fake rake in part 1 that it's really fascinating to hear this and understand exactly where he came from. I like to watch this scene in conjunction with like episode 1. I think it offers such a different shading to what we saw there, and that it was always Penelope. That was the damage that was done, and that's why he came back the way he did. So when you now rewatch it, you see underneath the facade the pain that's there for him.
Yeah.
And it's this one person who made him feel seen, refusing to see him, even in writing. And so he felt completely adrift.
Yeah.
And then obviously you have the tragedy that not even his family had time for him.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing, guys? Just I mean, to be fair, I don't text back people very much, so I'm not one to talk. But yeah, it's really interesting to have this moment here where he really confesses to Cressida.
Cressida is confused, rightly so, as to why Colin is pouring his heart out to her, but he's not there for her sympathy, but her mercy. Colin pleads that Penelope is no villain.
Believe that, do we?
Words he probably needs to hear himself. He also mentions that she may hate Lady Whistledown, but her readers still pay to read her week after week. As Cressida points out, Colin has touched upon his own jealousy. She says, you do not sound as if you hate Whistledown, you sound as if you are jealous of her. And apparently that strikes Colin, but he is not yet ready to admit that, according to the script.
Yeah, because we can definitely see that Cressida has touched a nerve, and he tries to shake it off and redirect the conversation. He is still convinced that Whistledown is totally separate to Penelope. They're not one and the same. And his pen, his sweet, innocent pen, who has experienced loneliness, that neither of them can fathom apparently. She feels very distinctly different to the woman with the pen who's wounded everyone around her. And he really connects with Pen in this moment, interestingly enough, where he realizes that her cruelty has come from her loneliness, something that he's realizing more and more when he's thinking back on his own loneliness. And he reaches out to Cressida, because clearly she's fucking lonely too, really rubbing it in like, you know who's even more despairing and lonely than you are right now, Cressida? The married rich woman.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then he even offers Penelope's remorse to Cressida, which, is he entitled to do that? I know he's like pleading for mercy and everything, but I'm like, I don't know that Pen feels remorse for Cressida.
It might work if they included a beat where Colin finds Pen writing the issue that was released this morning, with him maybe asking, what are you writing today then? Something nasty about Cressida, I imagine. And she's like, oh no, I feel like she's probably been through enough or something like that. You know what I mean? There's maybe a missing scene there.
Yeah, there's the missing beat in this episode is Cressida, after having a really nuanced journey in this season, becomes like a bit of a cartoon villain. And you don't have a moment where Penelope sees her in any different way.
Right.
In fact, the whole season, Penelope is completely blind to any of Cressida's motivations.
Yeah.
And in a way you're like, well, she doesn't have to because she's been bullied by her and, you know, she doesn't have to sit down and empathise with her. But I think it'd been more nuanced if you'd have had a moment where Penelope saw her as a more nuanced character who was hurting in her own way.
Yeah. Eloise even refers to her as something like a monster in 306, right?
Yeah. It's just sort of like a flat way to see her character.
It would have been interesting to have a scene where Penelope reflected on Cressida post being revealed as Lady Whistledown to Colin, saying like, you know, I could understand what maybe drove her to do that.
Well, interestingly, he almost breaks through to Cressida. It's like connecting the thread of loneliness that's gone through all of their lives. It almost reels her into listening, not conceding, but to being open to resolution. But then he makes the most fatal mistake that he could, because he's really tying this kind of tenuous comparison between all three of them. But he then assumes that Cressida's family will be as kind to her as his own family would be to him. He says a family's love is enduring. And for him, it's just such an obvious reality to him, because like no matter what's happened in his life, he's always had the knowledge that his family's there for him. Whereas that is nothing that Cressida has ever known in her life. She's known the exact opposite. So when he says that, it just sends her walls climbing straight back up, because they're not the same. Cressida's had to fight to survive, and she cannot show softness because she knows there's no soft place for her to land in her future.
And then, holy reshoot, Batman. Colin chases Cressida into the hall and into a scene that is clearly a reshoot.
Looks like
Colin, sensing he's running out of options, panics and says that Cressida has no proof. Unfortunately, calling her bluff backfires, and Cressida decides to extort the Bridgertons even more. To be honest, you walked right into that one, Colin.
Oh my God, the bloody reshoot distracts me every single time.
I hate it.
I'm like really invested in this scene because I think it's really compelling and interesting.
Yeah. It's just like the wedding reception where they rush out of one room and then all of a sudden he looks visibly different. It just, it distracts me every single time.
I have so many thoughts about the reshoots from the season.
I just would have done without any of them, to be honest.
Why did they feel compelled to do so many? Like, truly none of them really added to the story at all, in my opinion. And in fact, like, the scenes that were cut, I feel like some of them I understand, but a lot of them I was just like, why did they ever cut that? That, like, makes no sense to me. And then to add something that, like,
it's odd.
There's no reason for it at all.
I feel like in many cases, after some thinking, I can rationalize why the writers made these changes, but I'm really not sure they improved the story in any way.
No.
I would have preferred the season with the original scenes.
Yeah. There are reshoots where I can kind of, I don't mind as much because I can understand, for example, like the market scene in 302. I can understand maybe the original tonally didn't hit the spots that they wanted it to, and so they went back and redid it. But here again, I think this was all changed because they wanted to change how Cressida found out, and I don't find that a more compelling change.
No, you're right.
Also, the thing I don't like about the reshoot scene here is like they step out and tonally it totally shifts, which I get. There's like a different energy. But that really interesting connection that they had really fractures. And then she sort of slips back into this pantomime villain role again. So it's really frustrating.
I think we'll get into another reason why they changed this in the next scene when he reports back to Penelope. But generally, I'm not a fan of the reshoots.
Yeah, well, our listener G said, I love the Cressida and Colin scene so much. How he shows he spent time pondering on Pen's experiences.
Yeah.
I feel like Cressida was a perfect person to bring up envy to Colin, as she's always been envious of Pen's relationship with the Bridgertons. And Mirthman's mama said, Colin's confrontation with Cressida provided a heaping measure of Polin hope for me.
Oh.
He might not have agreed with Pen's methods, but Colin understood how hurtful being invisible or unwanted in the eyes of society could cut deeply into someone's hope Colin witnessed Cressida's cruelty towards Pen, but he saw her both women were faced with similar circumstances, and the choices each woman made were under extreme duress. I think they're really good points. And that first scene, I really, really do enjoy. I think the mistake he makes is fascinating, where he doesn't recognise his privilege, not just being a man, but being in a loving family, something that's so fundamental to him, he wouldn't even, it like upholds his entire worldview.
Yep.
And I do like that this conversation helps him. You can almost see him as he's saying it, trying to convince Cressida. He's like having little revelations, like, you know, maybe she hasn't done this out of malice or manipulation. Maybe it's come from a place of loneliness and vulnerability.
Yeah.
And he's understanding more of Pen as he's speaking. I think it also shows, maybe not the way the scene ends, but in the middle of the scene, it really shows that Cressida has a way back for redemption, because you have that moment where she softens slightly and almost falls into it, but then she has to put her walls up again.
I think the one thing I think this scene could have done better is that it was really only conveyed in the scene description when Cressida says that he sounds jealous of her.
Yeah.
Like I said, that strikes Colin, but he's not.
I love how it goes, no, I'm not.
Yeah, it says, but he's not yet ready to admit that. But you can kind of catch the subtlety of that in the way Luke Newton reacts. But like,
The line's not quite strong enough, yeah.
it's not that obvious that that is actually one of the major issues we're dealing with in this episode. And I don't know how many minutes we are into the episode, but that's one of the major issues we need to overcome for Polin to get their happy ending. And this is really like one of the first times it's mentioned that Colin is really jealous of her since like back in the modiste bitch off scene.
Yeah. And we haven't talked about Colin being a writer himself, have we, so far in the episode?
Right. So I feel like Colin, being a writer and also his jealousy could have been mentioned more this episode. Honestly, like being said, we probably needed several more episodes to deal with all of this.
It needed to be like threaded through other episodes, I think.
Yes.
Like have her piece it together in like episode 6.
Right.
And then have her weave the blackmail in episode 7.
Right.
Colin should have found out that she was whistled down much earlier on. Thing is, with this season, there was such an opportunity for them to make it serious, but also still have that like comedy at the first half of the season. It would have been so funny if Colin thought that it was Elle the entire time. And then he interrupts a conversation between Elle and Penelope, where he's like, I caught you, Elle, your lady Whistledown. And then Pen is like, no, Colin, it's me. And that could have been in a church or something. Like it could have been Elle that went with her, you know, like they could have changed it up. And they talked about it. And that's how Colin discovers. And he's like, I knew it was you, Elle. Like, have you two both been in on this? And it could have been like a funny moment that also like juxtaposed something sort of serious. And that all could have been done in the first half. And then we have the Cressida part. I feel like the season should have left off with not left off, like when they split up the episodes. It should have been Cressida like announcing that she's Lady Whistledown. And then the last 4 episodes is sort of like not defeating Cressida, but like finding out a way to deal with this blackmail plot and everything like that. And then it becomes Pen, Colin, and Elle working together.
What could have been interesting in like kind of a timeline like you imagined, where Cressida announces that she's Lady Whistledown earlier, and then having Penelope or even Polin together trying to resolve that, and that triggers the blackmail plot, and then having simultaneously the Queen announcing the hunt for Lady Whistledown because she's really pissed that like she's being misled. I just feel like the chaos of that could have been more interesting, perhaps, than the way it played out as we saw it.
Yeah.
I never liked, I mean, it's a part of their story, so it's really hard to cut out, but I never really liked the jealousy angle in the book. You saw where it came from, but the way it was expressed was always a bit frustrating. I'd always hoped that they'd put that on with Elle, but
I think it makes sense to me that they adapted it because it does seem like a storyline that Shondaland and that these writers would very much embrace.
yeah, they have a modern relationship.
Right. The modern issue of a man feeling emasculated by his wife's success, his partner's success, I feel like is an issue that even modern women deal with. So I can see why they wanted to include that. But to me, it's not quite as exciting as some of the other drama.
Yeah.
It just sort of like drops in and out of the narrative though sometimes, you know what I mean? It's not really brought to the forefront enough.
Yeah, like I said, it doesn't receive enough attention.
Yeah.
There's a blink and miss it reference to his jealousy in the scene description, but we don't really know until the end of the episode when he's like, I was envious of you all along, that is one of the issues he's been battling with this entire episode.
So it does a disservice to him because we haven't had the chance to connect with that as a problem for him.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it puts him in a worse light.
Like, they could have also played that off better as well. Colin could have been doing things behind the scenes, like asking his family what they thought of something he wrote, like been like, oh, how do you feel about this? Like, I was writing about my travels, blah, blah, blah. Did you read any of it? If they had sort of done that throughout the series, it could have made us as the viewer realize, oh, he's serious about becoming an author. And like, the thing is they just peppered it in last minute, which is such a disservice to the character, because in the books, at least from what you guys have told me when we did the rereadings.
Could have told you anything and you believed it.
Yeah, he's a genuinely like interesting character. And in the show as well, like, he's someone who like deeply feels, has a sense of loss, and like they played this whole like fake confidence thing, but they didn't juxtapose it with anything that like he was actually insecure about. So like, it could have been, oh, he's very confident, but then he's like asking Anthony or Benedict, hey, did you read any of the letters I wrote you? Like, did you want to read about my travels here?
We find out very late in the game that no one replied to him, don't we?
Yeah, exactly.
To piggyback off this, you're not alone. Like, a lot of people think that Colin in part 2, his character wasn't given enough to do besides react to kind of the Lady Whistledown situation.
Right.
And to touch on your idea of him perhaps approaching his family with his writing to get their opinion of it, it would have been interesting, but also a little sad, but also sweet too. If he approached them with his writing and was like, oh, would you find some time to read this? I was thinking of, I'm really interested in becoming a writer and I just wanted to get some thoughts on it. And if they're just too busy in their own lives that they kind of forget about it. But in the end, it's actually Penelope who volunteers again, just tentatively, knowing that there's still this drama between them, to read his writing. And he realizes that she really is interested in his writing and believes that he has talent, and having them reconnect as writers before they come back as a married couple.
Right. And it also, I feel like it could have been something so tender too. Like, they're both like arguing, whatever, but they're doing things to help each other rather than just like him sitting on a couch with a tea.
Yeah.
She could have read his work and then left a message like, this is really well written or something like that. And also, when I think of the brothel scenes and stuff like that, or him like talking to his friends were all interested in hearing about the sex and the women he was having sex with. And then he could have like given some writing to one of his friends and been like, what did you guys think of this? And they're like, well, we want to hear more about like your sexcapades, whatever.
Penelope would too, to be fair, but yeah.
But like, that would make him realize like, oh, you guys don't like actually care about the content that I'm creating. You just want like salacious details, which would also, I feel like, be a full circle moment for him, where he also realizes that the top really loves gossip. And so now he like understands like why Penn does some of these things, like it could be like he's upset with her, so he's not having her read his writing, so he's having his friends do it. And then he realizes that they love the gossipy side of it.
She loves the art form.
They don't necessarily care for like talking about mountainscapes and the water shining a certain way. They don't love that kind of romanticism.
Yes, the poetic language. But I feel like you're touching on something important here, is that this is a season about two writers falling in love. And we didn't really get in part 2 that angle that Colin is also a writer.
I don't think we even got it enough throughout the entire season, if I'm being honest. And then just to like reflect a little bit, Penn could have written like a nice little note to be like, I still care, I'm still doing this. And he still could have been like fighting for her as well, like been like, oh, let me try to do this for her. Let me do this. There is a way that you can do tension and still show partners that are supportive of each other. Like, there's a way for you to do that where it's like, okay, we're not communicating right now, but we still obviously love each other and want the best for each other. And I feel like Bridgerton oftentimes falls short on that mark.
Right.
And I get it. We love yearning, blah, blah, blah. You can yearn in a healthy way, and you can also show relationships in a healthy way.
Yeah, she's planning an annulment in the other room. Before we move on, there's one thing I wanted to touch on with what you were saying about Colin. It's really interesting about him kind of being sidelined a little bit in part 2, which we definitely get to when we get to the reveal.
Yeah.
But this beautiful speech that he just has to Cressida, where he really reveals everything about what was motivating him in part 1. It's like, I understand why we get it here, but it also does him a disservice that we don't get it until now.
Yeah.
Because everyone who's watched the first few episodes are like, oh, he's just being a dickhead.
Overly cocky, rake.
Just like a key piece of information that you almost like somehow want way earlier. So when you're watching him, you're like, oh my God, I understand like where this is coming from. But it's so far past that now that it feels like, oh yeah, I remember that guy briefly.
And also, Cressida didn't deserve that speech. She didn't deserve that vulnerability from him. I completely understand why they did that. Like, he wanted to be like, let me level with you and like try to reason, but that should have been for Penn. The scene should have played out like she's revealing more about herself and he's like, oh, I get it because I have been here before. And he was like, I understand why you're doing this. He goes, but you don't have to do this. And then it escalates and she's like, well, now she's asking for money, you know?
See, that's interesting. I'm just going to interrupt you for a second because you're talking about Cressida revealing information that would maybe prompt Colin into making his own confession. And so an interesting way to do that, for example, would have Cressida admit that she had finally found a friend this season in Eloise, and then that was taken from her, and now she feels kind of adrift without Eloise's presence in her life. And Colin's like, I actually kind of felt like that myself on my travels when I was alone. I see your point, because she could say, I have nothing. At the beginning of the season, I thought I even had Eloise's friendship, but now I have no one. And then he'd be like, actually, I kind of felt the same way.
Yeah. And he needs to see her motivation. We don't see Cressida's motivation through him. I think Cressida's line of, well, it sounds like you're jealous, it's still really important and it should be added, but it needed to be revealed in such a way where it's like, oh, I get it. You're this way. And then Cressida goes, oh, I get it. You're jealous. You're jealous of Penn.
Yeah, maybe. We'll probably keep harping on it, but I really just think any nitpicky issues that we have are largely due to pacing and the time constraints of having just 8 episodes. And I feel like having shorter episodes in the first half of the season also didn't help.
Right.
Part 1 is really great, but the episodes felt really short. They could have unpacked or set up some of the things that were occurring in Part 2 back in Part 1.
Yeah, some of just the ideas of things. Colin being jealous of Lady Whistledown as a writer.
Yeah.
Episodes 3 and 4, you kind of forgot about Whistledown.
Yeah.
She was kind of like a voiceover, but not really an implication, which meant that because you didn't deal with it, you suspended it completely. You have to do all of that, and there's a lot of work to cover within this last chunk.
Yeah.
Like, the balance is just a bit off, but we've got a lot to do, including planning a bloody ball, guys.
We do.
Ooh. Would you believe it? Lecky, I've got a theme in mind. I heard about the purple and orange. Is that still going ahead, or?
So Prudence and Philippa pitch a ball filled with small, many-legged creatures and a big budget, only to be turned away by Portia, who claims she's expecting a visitor. Varley tries to appease Portia's daughters, however, by claiming she's perhaps the person most equipped in the ton to throw a bash on a budget.
And you know what? As someone who recently went to a potato festival on a Greek island,
That's true.
I can absolutely attest that you can have a bloody great time with nothing more than a party spirit and a few bags of potatoes. What a night was had. Varley has my full faith. What's happening with the blackmail plot?
In the drawing room, we find Penn and Elle adorably lounging together. This is a direct parallel back to the Bridgerton sofa scene in 108, which we absolutely love. Penelope's back together once again.
Yay!
In fact, there's something else also a little familiar about this scene, right, Reg?
Hey up, my ducks, we've got a nice little reduce, reuse, recycle situation on our hands. Penn is wearing none other than the most renowned, much obsessed over in stills, first kiss dress. Huge! This is another testament to lighting and differences that lighting give, because the dress looks really different here. It's even got like a slight pink tinge to it that I didn't really see before. Adorable and a great one to rewear. 10 out of 10.
Is it a terrible confession to say that I'm like, why is she wearing that dress now? I just want it to be like the first kiss dress, and then it just turns up here.
Yeah, now it's the first fuck-up dress because Colin fucked things up with Cressida.
In happy news, the two friends are now fully reconciled and are sat awaiting Colin's return. Eloise is trying to keep things positive, offering more faith in Colin than he probably deserves right now, to be honest with you. But Penn is more worried about Cressida. This leads to a really funny conversation between the friends where Penelope teases Eloise over her choice in friend earlier in the season, and Eloise confesses that, although she did enjoy Cressida in the end, the beginning point of their friendship was initially a way to hurt Penn. I mean, at least they're laughing about it now.
Well, Cressida's not laughing about it. I feel sorry for Cressida, to be honest. She's not even getting me laughing all the way to the bank because she doesn't get paid. But anyway.
Our listener, G, made a funny point. They said, why do you think Eloise did not share any info about Cressida before Colin went to talk to her? She really knew what was on her mind, what bothered her, what kind of challenges she was facing.
That's a good point.
I think it's very Elle to hold all the cards and not mention it.
That's a great point. Eloise has been there when Cressida's been on the receiving end of Lord Cowper's like emotional and verbal abuse. Like she knows that's not a family that is loving.
She's like, gosh, if only there was, if only there was someone who knew all of her motivations and all of her weak points and all of the way outs that she's looking for. And,
right.
Maybe if we just bought her a ticket to Vienna, she'd shut up. Like,
yeah.
I think it's very Eloise, though, to not think of it.
Should have been a briefing session, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Or to be like, I know this person really well. Go in. This is the impression you need to say. This is what not to mention. Don't mention that her family is loving and that you have a great life and hers is shit.
Also, to be honest, I wonder if Eloise would have been the person to send, because even though they had that argument in 306, obviously Cressida still has like
a weakness for her soft spot.
Like feelings for Eloise, like those fond feelings for her. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean?
It had to be hero Colin, babe. He's got to have a hero moment.
Because the plot requires it, again.
The plot requires it, but I think he needed to sort of go out on this blaze of, I'm going to try to be this person that I'm not, that he's kept doing all season. Like, I'm going to be this forceful character before it humbles him.
Right. But then again, include a scene where Eloise is like, actually, maybe I should go talk to her. And he was like, no, I'll take care of it myself.
And if that had come with the inclusion of the, what's her name? Custard woman.
Custard?
Cressida?
Custard.
Custard?
Custard woman? Who the fuck is Custard woman?
That custard brand.
Custard woman.
Custard.
What?
Custard woman.
Yeah, custard woman. Pre-prepared custard.
Danbury.
No. Ambrosia.
Yeah. Custard woman.
My apologies to Ambrosia / custard woman.
Sorry, Ambrosia.
So, imagine that. They'd had that as well.
Oh my God, it's a good job they took that out. Mm-hmm. What with Ambrosia trying it on with him?
If they'd had that and then Ambrosia, and then that was apparently the point of this. Like, oh, please.
Well, definitely removing that scene was a good decision.
Yeah, I agree, Lecky.
I just don't like that we're in the last episode and we're making one of the two love interests stumble so badly. Mm-hmm. It's all right if they're stumbling together, but...
You're right. It is kind of like almost, I'm saying this in the nice way, a cartoon character treatment of Colin in that he has to like fail miserably to see that Penelope was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he has to fail miserably for her to soar independently. Mm-hmm. If it was like, you know what, you tried something and it didn't go well. I tried something and it didn't go well. How about...
work together.
We work together.
Exactly.
Get our strengths together.
Love it.
Whereas what ends up happening in this is that the resolution is... she has the plan and he sits back. Mm-hmm. And the moment is about her, not them.
Mm-hmm. That's why I said, again, I think this is writers thinking that a more compelling storyline is telling the story of a man who isn't afraid to have a wife who is more successful than he is and to take a step back and support her from behind. Whereas there's also something equally moving about a partnership between two people.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I think the other thing too is like you can have a partnership between two people and then still have the wife be more successful. Like it doesn't have to be this either or. Because I feel like all of our suggestions for what we would have done aren't taking away from the original vision of the writers of like Penn being more successful, but it's giving Colin a character. It's giving Colin a life, which was taken away from him almost in this season. And of course, part of it was forced. Like he was trying to be confident. It was whatever. I found that compelling. However, I would have also found it compelling if they included other aspects of his life, like the writing.
His writing. Yeah.
I think ultimately, I hate to say this because it gets thrown around in Bridgerton because we do like side stories. I really think they focused way too much on trying to add in as much as they could for this season. And there was already so much going on.
Another area or another scene where they could have focused on his writing just more in particular is the scene where he discovers Penelope's letters later this episode.
Yeah.
He pulls out his journal to write, but he immediately sets it aside because he was actually, the scene description reveals he was actually looking for her letters deliberately.
Yeah.
But I feel like it might have been more interesting if he sat down to write. He's writing, he reaches down into his drawer, and then he sees the letters. So then we at least get another reminder, oh, he's a writer, by the way.
Yeah,
like he's trying to be a writer on his own before he finds the letters.
Also, like, I really feel like Colin should have read her letters because I can't imagine that Pen's writing is so different that in her personal letters that she writes to him, there isn't a hint of whistle down there, you know? I feel like there could have been sort of, again, this like cross-examination of finding things out.
Like, he tells us that at the end of the episode, that he found out their two voices were the same by reading her letters, but we don't actually hear what the letter sounded like.
And then there's almost like a cat and mouse thing between the Queen and Colin and Elle and stuff like that. Like, that would have been so much fun because it would have created this sort of chaos. And I feel like with that, we could have had way more family moments because Colin's like accusing Elle of being Lady Whistledown. We could have had way more fun interactions.
Oh, you know what also could have been fun? We were talking about the Queen interrupts the wedding reception last episode, and she's like, I know it's a Bridgerton. I know a Whistledown is a Bridgerton. So then we like cut to when actually Penelope goes to see the Queen.
Yeah.
We focus on like the Queen smiling, and it cuts to Colin, and you're like, oh, is he going to fess up that he's Lady Whistledown or something? Right. But then you pan over and you see that it's Penelope, and he's just accompanied her there.
What also could have been very funny is if like the Queen left and then Colin stepped forward and was like, Elle, I think you have some explaining to do. Like something like that. And then everyone's like, the fuck? And I was like, I'm not Lady Whistledown. I also feel like that would have been a really good moment for Pen to tell the Bridgertons as well.
Before Antony left for India, Cantony.
Get them all in on it.
Yes, like I wanted to see Antony's reaction to this because I don't think he would have been like as angry as everyone thinks he would be. I think he would just be like in shock.
It would have been cute if he said it does not signify. I love you anyway.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. I feel like we're shitting on this episode so much in this season. And I like, you guys know that there were so many highs for us in this. It's just the lows really highlight I think, weaknesses of the season overall.
It's a tricky episode, isn't it?
I think it's just that you can see the flaws because there's so many other ways you can envision these themes playing out in a way that would make more sense.
Right.
And maybe be more meaningful for the characters and their love story. So, yeah.
There was such potential for it to be just a true mix. And that's what I really wanted. When they said it was romantic comedy, I wanted that all throughout the season.
That's a good point, that the tonal shift in part 2 is like really jarring.
Yeah. Because in romantic comedies, they do have that moment where the main couple gets into an argument and they're upset, but things are still happening around them that are funny, or they're like interweaving in each other's lives in weird ways, whatever. And they still have these serious moments. And I would just have loved for that romantic comedy to be pushed all the way through the season.
Or even in the supporting characters' arcs, like while Polin are dealing with this drama, like some funny beats. And Eloise, I guess we have Benedict and his threesome, but I don't find that very funny. I find it kind of tedious because it wasn't edited great.
I wrote in my notes, happy for you, babe. Don't care this much.
I could talk up and down of Benedict's was my least favorite storyline. I'm sorry, it's the last episode, so I'm just going to go all out. Benedict's was my least favorite storyline. They should have done so much more with his character. They should have had him struggling with his art, could have juxtaposed Colin struggling with his writing. And they're both like swapping it off. Like, what do you think of my painting? What do you think of my writing? What do you think of this?
Yeah, I'm an imposter. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
You know.
And then Antony is like, when did I get two fucking artists in my family? And it's like, that would have been fun.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry.
And another thing. No, I'm joking.
No, sorry.
Anyway, back to the scene.
I'm sorry.
We're still with Pen and Eloise, and adorably, Pen asks Eloise what she is reading, something she attempted earlier in the season only to get a cold shoulder. This moment, though, is far more warmly received and reminds us that the two are truly back together. But before we can get Eloise's reading list, in walks Colin.
Colin is now decoated, and we can spot another waistcoat rewear from episode 6, where he wears it in the drawing room. It's got birds on, so it's fun, or maybe mean, to imagine he put it on to taunt Cressida, our flightless bird, trapped in her cage.
How do things go over at Cressida's then, babe?
Colin breaks the news that Cressida now wants double, and she wants Pen to use her column to restore her reputation. In the script, interestingly, she actually had slightly different demands. Cressida apparently wanted to influence what Penelope wrote as Lady Whistledown, demanding that she print whatever Cressida wrote to her from the countryside. And I think they used ADR for this, and that's why you hear this line when Colin's off screen, you see his back. I think he re-recorded this after they shot the season.
Well, either way, they're fucked. Colin's big hero moment has backfired tremendously, and he sheepishly apologises to Pen. She accepts it pretty gracefully, just thankful probably that he's even still speaking and looking at her at this point. Especially seeing as though Pen doesn't have that kind of money knocking around. 10 grand she could do, 20, she's bust. So what are they going to do? Well, it looks as though Colin will have no choice but to lie to Benedict and secure the funds a different way. Turns out that it's not so easy to tell the truth all the time, is it? And he has been brought into Penelope's lies. I think maybe this is another helpful little insight for Colin to gain, just like Eloise did when she realised that the only thing to do was to write an issue. This is a moment where like Colin's like, oh God, you sometimes have to be put in positions where you have to lie. And now I will just say that in the script that we prepared for this episode, Lecky wrote the internal note, do we even need to cover this? To which I would say, Lecky, don't be so negative, babe. For a start, this is a rewatch. Please do as you're asked. But more importantly, there is always a time for a threesome, especially in the climax of a season in episode 8, and especially when we're in the middle of a blackmail plot. How else are we going to distress? He's had to sign a lot of signatures this episode as Benedict. He needs a little detox.
That's a lot of signatures, David.
47 is a lot of signatures, a solicitor.
And then tumbles into bed. Yeah, okay, indeed, yes. Was that all we said about it?
That's all we said, because you didn't want to talk about it.
Oh, fair enough. Move on.
We can keep this bit in as well. We've got no more notes, Lecky, because you said, do we even need to cover this?
Okay, fine. I accept.
Look, everyone who's watched this episode knows another one. We should have had like a sound effect.
Another One Bites the Dust by Queen starts to play.
Yeah, I don't know what sound effect we'll be able to put up, but...
Another One Bites the Dust.
You know the drill. You've seen the episode. Lady D's house we might do separately.
Why are we doing Lady Danbury's house separately?
I think I just need to rewatch the scene.
I would just do like the briefest summary because like it's really just the awkwardness of saying like, hey, I banged your dad. Like it's totally okay if you want to get with my brother.
There we go. Just put that in, like. There we are.
And scene.
Listeners, Lecky's just recapped a scene that we missed. There you go. We don't need to cover that bit now.
Okay.
This is a later Lecky and Obs trying to fill in the bits we missed. And those bits have been filled, haven't they, Lek?
They also drink some scotch.
And there's always that awkward little birthday hat moment at the end. All's resolved from that great little plot point.
Yeah.
So all's well between them. Let's see what else is going on.
And it's the threesome scene.
We go straight into...
Well, reading my notes here, I say may not need to cover, and I didn't mean the actual scene, but like, no, actually I did mean the actual scene.
It's been a long rewatch, guys. It's been hundreds of thousands of words have been written. We've lost it.
Anyway, these are my points about whatever number threesome this is.
No, this is what a chat afterwards. Pillow talk, babe.
Right, the post-coital chat. I was thinking of moist. Just skip it.
No. I mean, you'd hope ultimately, actually. But, oh my God, okay, just briefly recap what happens in this thing so we can swiftly move on.
Okay. So, back at Tilly's house, Benedict's post-coital in bed with Tilly and Paul. There is some little cut moments from the dialogue here. Ben initially said that he felt love for Tilly and Paul, which I think they wisely cut, so as not to diminish any feelings he may experience next season.
A bloody love confession.
I don't think it was like an actual love confession. It's just like, I have loving feelings for you.
Did they give Benedict Collins one from the book? It's like, for every one of my smiles and for every one of your smiles.
Yes. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. And we know it's clearly not love because he ends up rejecting Tilly at the end of the episode. But
listeners, if you're confused by this whole Benedict scenario,
join the queue. I think it may have been the plan all along for Tilly to be like, oh, I want to be in a monogamous relationship with you. And we'll get into it later in 308. There's like a cutscene where Paul implies that like he knew that Tilly felt more and he wasn't sure if they should continue their like threesome. But anyway,
who knows?
Moving on.
Let's go check in on Polin, shall we?
It's bedtime over at Polin's apartment, and the scene description says, Colin sits at his desk, unpacking his personal effects. He finds his journal and packs it away in the lowest drawer.
Ray leaves Penelope's bedroom, the universal signal for every husband to walk in and grab your pillow for the sofa.
Right.
Also, the fact that he's unpacking his stuff is like a really bleak reminder that they've just moved in, and this is the scenario that they're living in.
Yeah.
But also, do we really see him hiding his journal away in this moment? I don't think it's lingered on enough that he's hiding his journal. Because it's like what we were saying earlier, that he can't face his writing.
Yeah.
And if we'd actually had a bit more of a moment that we understood that a lot of his pain was connected to his writing and that this was impacting his art as well, and he couldn't even look at it because of the situation, I feel like that would have been a better reminder of his writing.
I see what you're saying. But I think he's literally just putting it in the drawer so that we can get the scene of him pulling it out and finding her letters later this episode.
Looking too deep into it. Nice try.
Sorry.
But what I do like, though, is the way that Ray leaves him for the night. She has to be judging him massively. She's like, I was rooting for you. We were all rooting for you, you bastard. I let you slip in through the back door.
Yeah. Well, not really.
Non-metaphor. And this is what you're doing with it, babe.
Right. And the scene description for the moment that follows this reads, Colin nods and presses into the bedroom where he catches sight of Penelope's bare shoulder. Hot.
Excellent shoulder.
Just as she pulls her nightgown over her underdress. A pang of longing as he and Penelope lock eyes. A heated moment, the two of them feeling their old connection, smelling their familiar scents.
Okay.
Anthony's entered the chat. Jesus Christ.
And just before it looks like one of them might give in, Colin's pride and anger forces his eyes away.
Let's have a little reenactment.
I only need a blanket for the sofa, Penelope. He doesn't say Penelope.
She was just getting into character.
Of course. Like who?
As Penelope.
Penelope.
Like Penelope, the person in the scene beats.
Oh, gosh. Of course.
As Colin grabs the blanket and goes, we're off a heartbroken Penelope alone in the shadow of her room.
Pen being left in the shadows is a bit of a habit at this point. But don't get too comfortable, Pen. It's called Into the Light. I'm sure at some point you're going to get off the wall. We've got a lighting team on standby. You're going to be thrust into it before you know it. No other thrusting happening though.
Yeah.
But how are they looking, Veg?
Cold Shoulder Colin is wearing his super nice dark waistcoat embroidered with metallic leaves, the one he wore to chase Pen through London in 306 to 307. He's jacketless and open-shirted, so I guess it's no wonder he's got a cold shoulder. And then over to Hot Shoulder Pen. Oh my god, Hot Shoulder Pen. Our gorgeous protagonist is getting her shoulder out. Shouldn't that mean a physically cold shoulder too, since you just made that connection with Colin, Veg, I hear you ask? I think ultimately, don't worry about any metaphors I make. So, Hot Shoulder Pen has got her shoulder shrugged out of her dress as she gets ready for bed. It's Bridgerton blue, it's silky, it's low cut. I have no idea how Colin was able to pass that opportunity by. I'm sorry to be a little crass, but come on.
Oh, God. This scene, guys. Because it's interesting, isn't it? Because they almost have like a tiny little breakthrough earlier when he's like, I fucked up massively. And she's like, it's okay, don't worry. It's only our lives together that's at stake. But they have this moment where they're almost broken through, but he sees her and he feels that pang, but he just still can't quite bridge the gap. Because, you know, the one thing that we've established in the season is that emotional intimacy is so deeply connected to physical intimacy for him.
Yeah. Demisexual.
So when he's feeling emotionally distant from her, he can't be with her, no matter how much he wants to. And you can feel that tension between them. Do you wish there would have been a breakthrough in the scene, though?
Oh, well, I still wish, I've talked about this before, I feel like I would have liked if Colin had given his journal here to Penelope, just again to remind us that he is a writer, but also more as a way to bridge the gap between them and show that he didn't really hate her for being Lady Whistledown at this point.
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of the conflict on his side at this point in the story is coming from his jealousy. And so his inability to express his love for Pen in a small way, such as by letting her read his journal, seems a bit sad. I would have liked him to maybe extend an olive branch like that.
Yeah.
At this point in the story.
Yeah, because it would have been like, I can't be with you physically, but here's a part of me in some way that shows that there's still a connection between the two of us.
And they're both writers. Yes, share your words.
That's the way he's going to find his way back. So it's like a little token.
And that's how they connected after season 1 through their writing. Bring it back. Bring it full circle.
This is bleak, but I always wanted the stay moment to be here. Even if it hadn't have worked when we went from the book, but for her to say it to him, do you think that would have been too depressing?
That would have been way too depressing for me at this point.
Yeah, if he was like, nope.
He would have been turning to leave and she was like, stay.
I would die.
He's like, I can't, but have a journal. Oh, but the stay moment, don't give up all your hope on that happening because that might be popping up a little bit later. Ew. So, Lucky, did you say that this had been moved?
Okay, so initially this hot cold shoulder scene happened before he even went to see Cressida. So it was actually earlier in the episode.
Oh, so it was like the night of when he was like, it's not up to you what we do.
Yeah, it was after it is not up to you what we do that night.
Oh, interesting. Maybe I prefer it where it is then because I think they were too far apart then to have this scene. Whereas like after their little scene at Featherington House where he's kind of sheepish, I think there's a bit more of a connection between them.
But maybe on the flip side of that is that because they've shifted it later, he's kind of moved along more mentally than he perhaps was on the page as they initially wrote it. So then again, having him give his journal to her or extend some sort of olive branch to her to show that his feeling was still there and with Penelope would have made a bigger difference.
Interesting. interesting. It's a really, really beautiful scene, I think, in terms of the yearning that you feel. And it's hard because you know that there's still a connection, but they still can't get over it enough. So, another failed night, very depressing, although gorgeously shot and lit. It is, again, the next morning. We've got a little repeat of earlier scenes. How long have they been going through this to and fro of waking up, ignoring each other, storming out, taking it in turns, drinking sad cups of tea? We don't know. I think we're making kind of progress, though, because he hasn't got dressed yet and he doesn't have a passive-aggressive cup of tea.
Right.
And he's not waiting to sort of catch her in like a, I'm storming out kind of way. Mm-hmm. So I think he's softening.
I actually quite like this scene. Well, I mean, for many reasons.
I love it. I think he looks great. But he isn't too happy either. He's stretched out. I mean, he's probably not stretched out. He's like 6 foot something. But he is scrunched up on the sofa after another sleepless night. But actually, it's Pen this time who opens the door and announces that she is the one who's going to be leaving. She's going to go get tea with Portia before the Frohn wedding.
And he doesn't like that one bit.
He doesn't. He's like startled by her. And Penelope makes quite a dig when she says she thought that she'd spare him the confines of a shared carriage.
And he's like, no, wait. I love our moments in the carriage.
The carriage? We had a great time. Hitting where it hurts, I suppose. I do really like this Penelope, actually, when she's sort of adjusting herself and getting ready. It's very true to her character. We've seen this before with her where she like perseveres in spite of the things that happen to her. Mm-hmm. And she has an ability to
soldier on,
just sort of have to move on with life. Whereas before in the opening scene, she was like very crushed by this and damaged by it. She's sort of taken the power and control and been like, if this is how we're going to live our lives,
this is what it is. Yeah.
Fine. I'm still going to live and function and I'm going to have to find a way to move on. What does the scene description say for that?
It says Colin couldn't sleep because he felt he failed them, meaning Penelope.
Oh.
Pen's all dressed up for Fran's wedding. Colin's still on the couch, remembering yesterday's defeat as he wakes.
But how are they looking, Veg?
Pen is wearing a purpley dress with the typical neckline and sleeve shape. It's super cute though and really suits her, and I wish they'd put her in more purple. Colin does look hot here in a white open shirt with super tousled hair. I'm definitely a fan of tousled Colin. Fingers crossed for that sort of vibe during the masquerade with his outfit. And Farida Guedar stated that the hair design here for Pen emulated Veronica Lake, Rita Hayworth and Karen Mulder. She also made Pen's hair look like flowers and hearts, which is adorable. And you don't really get the best look at it, but it's the way the hair is twisted around like the updo. I would encourage a look at Farida's Instagram because it's super cute. Literally little hearts made of her hair.
The scene description then touches on what Penelope and Colin are thinking as Penelope leaves. It says, as Pen leaves, Colin wants to stop her, but it's too late. He sits up, thinking. Then after a moment, he goes to his desk, opens a box or a drawer. They weren't quite sure how they were going to film the scene yet.
Big decision.
And it says, he pulls out his journal, but then he puts that aside. That's not what he was looking for. Instead, he pulls out a stack of letters bound neatly with string. He opens them and sorts through the pages, and we see it's pages and pages of old letters signed from Penelope. And as Colin tucks in to read them, we're off a small, comforted smile on his face.
And you're telling me this season is the season he found out he's in love with her? Okay.
Yeah.
I love this scene so much.
Yes.
I don't think we expected it at this point, right? Because we've always dreamed that the letters would have a big role, but they could have been discarded as like a season 2 story beat for them.
Yeah.
But to have it come back in this way was...
It was a big surprise.
Oh, such a highlight.
I was on such a high from when they were just mentioned in that scene with Cressida, and then to have him pull them out here and have the letters be what brings him back to her in the end was just so beautiful.
What guides him back, total highlight.
Yeah.
And conversely, it just brought a high from some of the depressing bits of the episode previously.
Yeah. It's like we found a breakthrough. And what's beautiful is the breakthrough is in the past.
And in the written word.
Obviously, the funny thing about the letters is if you look really carefully, they don't make any sense.
No, they don't. And it's also, like, at the end, he speaks of her writing, oh, I realized you were Lady Whistledown all along. When you actually, like, look at the letter, there's not much Lady Whistledown from Penelope in the letter.
Well, firstly, it's like the letter is addressed to Paris. Okay. The only time we went to Paris was in the last season when she didn't write to him at all. So that doesn't make sense for him to be in Paris. The letter also, I think, like, you're going to give us a little insight in a bit, but the letter also explicitly talks about her being with Eloise.
Right.
So it must be like a pretty old letter.
Right.
From a past travel to Paris.
Which, again, you're just now figuring out you're in love with her?
It has to be like a post-season 1 letter, and you just have to, like, imagine that's when it was from.
What does the letter say, Lecky? Because, I mean, we spent a long time wondering about those fucking letters.
Something about how it sounds as if he is living all the endless wonder and adventures that she dreamed for him, or something like that. Oh. I'm paraphrasing there because you could only make out bits and pieces. And then Penn writes, I shall live vicariously through you as we brace for unusually cold weather for this time of year. Please write some warmth over our end of the pond. Prudence has been complaining today, for her new gowns are not designed for the wet weather we have been experiencing. Elle and I got caught in a rainstorm whilst reading under the apple tree in the garden the other day. We were quite well, but our books unfortunately bear less forgiving damage. As you can imagine, my mamma was distraught as we trudged our wet and muddied silks through the halls, those of which had only been collected from the modiste just a few hours prior. I must say, with the shade of scarlet she turned, I thought she may combust entirely. I probably angered her further by laughing at her reaction, but I could not help it. Yours truly, Penelope.
I love that ending.
It's very sweet. But there's not much of Lady Whistledown here, except for, like, kind of gossiping about Prudence a bit.
I like laughing at her mum at the end.
Yeah.
I will say that across the pond or from over the pond seemed like more of a new phrase. So I looked it up and it says that it dates back to at least the 17th century.
So it tracks. So it's a historically accurate document, is what you're saying.
It tracks. It's a historically accurate document.
They did their research.
Veg, would you agree that we would only say that in relation to America, though?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it says.
But also, I would say Americans would say that in relation to Britain.
More than we would. Yeah.
You guys are always like, our friends across the pond. And
Yep.
We're like, get away.
we love it, but we just don't really say it.
It's a very large ocean.
Well, that's why I was like confused, because I really consider it more of an American term than a British term.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I think it's up there with like the neighbour boy situation. Maybe Cousin Jack really got to her.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
It's very endearing, though. What a sweet letter.
She hadn't had the geography lesson at that point, so she misaddressed her letter.
No, she hadn't. She hadn't been whipped into a room, had she?
Yeah.
I love that we got the letters. As I say, we were so surprised at the key role they played in the reconciliation and how much that it guides him back. And you can see that on his face, he's got stacks and stacks. So the fact that he's brought them,
kept them neatly bundled,
and that he's reached them subconsciously to put them in his drawers he's unpacked, neatly bundled and tied up.
Yeah.
No yellow ribbon, sadly. That would have been the cherry on the top. You can really sense in this scene that he's wanting to find his way back. Whereas in the earlier scene, he was cold and distant. Whereas like you see that he's still struggling, but he wants to sort of pick up that thread. And the fact that it's like through ink that they've sent to each other over years, and that the Penelope that he reads is this sweet girl. But then the one thing is, I would have liked it to be in a little bit more bitingly Whistledown here and there.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe it was on the next page. You know, maybe there was a Barb waiting on the next page.
Well, no, this one ended with yours truly, Penelope, unless there's a postscript. By the way, Lady Whitcomb fell flat on her face the other day. Yes.
But yeah, so it is him as well reconciling the two people in his mind who he still sees as distinctly different. And that is like, until he realises that, he won't get anywhere with their reconciliation. And the conversation with Cressida showed that he wasn't there yet. So this helps him. Also, I love his outfit.
Very Prince Eric of him.
Such a great moment. And you can like see that breakthrough on his face. Much needed.
Absolutely.
Well, we've only just woken up and I already feel exhausted. Let's see how Portia is handling this headache of a day.
Over at Featherington House, we find Portia awaiting Penelope's arrival.
A little outfit note here. Portia has got yellow and blue flowers in her hair in this scene. Too cute.
There's a caller at the door, but it is unfortunately not her youngest daughter. Farley tries her best, but Walter Dundas Esq cannot be avoided any longer. In walks the solicitor, who confirms that he isn't here to congratulate Portia on the recent nuptials, nor is he here on any happy business. Pretty fitting for this episode, actually. Instead, he has come to release Portia from her deception. He has figured out that the Featheringtons' recent wealth did not come from Aunt Petunia, who lived, as it turned out, in a perpetual state of poverty. A family trait, apparently. But the wealth was actually from the money Jack Featherington swindled out of the Tawn last season. I also really love, there's like a really nice little parallel in Walter Dundas's, why am I calling him by his first name?
Full name, please. Walter Dundas Esquire. Have some respect, Lucky. He's a man of the crown.
There's a nice parallel in his dialogue as well. He says, though some have told me they do find release from deception a comforting feeling, which also feels very in line from this episode and part 2 in general.
Do you feel comforted, Pen?
Yes. Portia tries to keep up the pretense, but the game is up. Walter Dundas Esq will be submitting his discoveries to the authorities later this week, and the Featherington title will be transferred to a more scrupulous family.
Oh, tough shit. Well, it seems Penelope has been putting her eavesdropping to good use as she bursts into the room to finally confront her mother over the stolen money. Portia counters Penelope's righteous anger by pointing out that although Portia stole from them, it was Penelope who humiliated them and stole their dignity. What they have done is no different, according to Portia. Although Pen wouldn't quite agree, as she definitely suggests that gossip and theft aren't quite the same deadly sins.
It's a good point, Pen. But Portia defends her actions by saying, I did what I had to do to protect this family. Who were you protecting with your column? Her delivery in this scene is just great, by the way.
Oh, they're so great together.
And Penelope exclaims, myself, and the unspoken implication then hangs in the air. She was protecting herself from her mother. Ugh. There's also some good scene description here describing Pen's thoughts. When Portia demands to know who Pen was protecting, it says, at that, Pen looks down, not wanting to admit that it's her mother she needed to protect herself from. Portia realizes and lowers her voice. The yelling stops.
It's like, I hate to break it to you, Portia.
The script then goes on to say that Pen wants to spare her mama's feelings, but she can't lie because it still hurts the way her mother has treated her all these years. Portia sits, growing, reflective.
I do like the turn that creates in the conversation.
This whole scene is just really great.
Yeah, masterful.
I feel like this episode has some really great moments. Like, I really like the scene between Colin and Cressida and how that reveals, well, first of all, the mention of the letters, but things that Colin has been thinking that we haven't really known up until now.
Yeah.
This scene, the final turning point between Portia and Pen, is really beautiful. Like, I feel season 3 in general not only told one of the best love stories of all time.
Of course, not biased.
But there's this unexpected love story that develops between Penelope and her family, who prior to this season, I think we didn't really care if they had resolved their issues or became closer.
And a lot of people didn't know if they could.
Right.
It felt insurmountable at points.
Right. And then they ended up telling this really beautiful story, a love story with Penelope and her family, and especially with Penelope and her mother, where they come together and they see each other in a new light also. And it was just so beautiful.
They don't let this divide them. They reconcile over it, which I think works so well because Portia's always lived a little bit on like the grayer side of life. So she actually can embrace her daughter's own grayness in this.
And maybe even more easily than Colin can right away. Yeah.
Yeah, and she can recognize it easier. Yeah, absolutely, because Colin has such a pure framework of the world, the way he sees everything.
Yeah.
Whereas Portia's had to adapt and see things differently.
Yeah.
I love this scene.
Yes, same. Anyway, there is a break in their argument as Portia shares, it's no easy thing being a parent. How was I to raise daughters when all my life I was taught that all power comes from a man? We have touched on this aspect of Portia's upbringing and her parenting style earlier in the season, but it is really a fascinating and deserved moment the two characters share here, where we see that rationale behind all of Portia's actions, good and bad. She has been protecting her daughters, but has stumbled many times over because she did not know how to raise them in an image different to the one she herself grew up with. But Portia can recognize now that Penelope has carved something of her very own with no help. She says, even if I do not like what you have written over the years, it is a great regret of mine that I have overlooked you for so long. You and I both, we have done the best we can with the opportunities that society has afforded us.
Such a great moment. I love it. Because, you know, she has the right to be as angry as everyone else has been. And she doesn't. And she takes it as an opportunity to be like, I have made mistakes and I have overlooked you, and now I can see you for all that you are and all the brilliance that you have.
Yes.
It's like a much more healing conversation than the ladies do not have dreams conversation, because it's like the same theme. She's saying the same thing, like, this is how I've grown up and navigated the world, but there's a way forward for Pen in this. And within that, Portia has a way forward too.
There's also just a bit of cut dialogue here from Portia's speech. She originally said, how was I to raise daughters when all my life I was taught that all power only comes from a man? Originally, after that point, she said, the truth is it flows to them, not from them, but you already know that.
Oh.
And I think this was maybe cut because I don't know if Penelope really has her own frame of reference about how power only goes to men, apart from maybe her short stint suppressing her own dreams for Colin's sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. She almost shouldn't know that, because it was the absence of that knowledge that empowered her to go forward and carve something out for herself. Do you know what I mean? Like, but having that like naivety as a young person to be like, I haven't been jaded by the world and I haven't been burnt by the world, to go in and be like, why can't I have this if I want it? Why can't I create something new?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas Portia was the opposite. She had to follow the path that she'd already seen because she didn't know there was a different way. Yeah. And she couldn't create a different way for herself. An interesting line.
Yeah, I definitely feel like that's knowledge that Portia possessed that maybe Penelope didn't, or didn't really meaningfully interact with her storyline this season.
It feels like something you'd only learn from many years in like a jaded relationship.
Yeah.
and being burnt by society rather than being 19 years old with a pen in your hand. Interesting though. Portia in the scene continues. Perhaps there were other ways, but at the time I could not see them. What would Lady Whistledown write about our disgrace when I am exposed? And that's what we've said is, again, what Portia has portrayed as well is she didn't know any other way. She was doing the best she had with the knowledge and ability and lack of power that she had.
Yeah.
But Penelope points out handily, Whistledown will write whatever she wants. And it's a great power that Portia fully recognises within her daughter. And instead of anger or jealousy, she is awed at what her daughter has created. She has done better than Portia herself could have, which is all Portia really ever wanted for her daughters. That's why she's not like antagonistic about it, because she's like, great, this is what I've been fighting for you. I've wanted you to have a future. I wanted you to do better. So there's no jealousy in the way that it would because Colin's like her peer and has the same ambitions. Her mother wants her to do better.
And then there is also a sweet moment where Portia remarks on Lady Whistledown's power and praises Pen for what she has made. The scene description reads, "The moment lands on Pen, the feeling of her truth being known and of being accepted for it." It's kind of heartbreaking because at this point she hasn't received this acceptance from Colin, despite him indirectly praising Penelope out of earshot to Cressida earlier in this episode.
Typical. I love that because she has lost so much in being herself to those who loved her the most, like Elle and Colin.
And the feeling of acceptance not being there.
And yet, when she reveals herself to mother, it's just kind of acceptance. Yeah, and it's that relief. And it's all she's ever wanted her whole life, really, as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a homecoming in a way. And this, to me, makes sense why she can go next season and, like, live in the same place with the same woman. Because before, I was like,
get her out of there.
Why on earth would she want to live anywhere near her? And it's like, you see that healing in action. So it's really well earned and really well portrayed.
Yeah.
And Penelope concedes that the pair are more alike than she cares to admit. Lecky, wasn't there a cut line in episode 5 that had Portia realising this?
Yes.
So if we go all the way back to episode 5, it was that moment, wasn't it, where she's like looking at herself in the mirror and Varley steps into the room. But as we said in our rewatch, there was actually a cut moment where Varley and Portia talk about Penelope.
Okay, so in that scene, Varley pointed out that it made sense that she didn't expect like a love match for Penelope. And she said, "You two are the most alike." And Portia responded by saying, "Did I ever tell you that? I did not know I had ever said it aloud." Obviously recognizing that she did feel they were the most alike.
And we'd long speculated that that's why she had such a clash with her, as opposed to her eldest two, who she sort of seemed to favour. But we'd always speculated that the reason she clashed with Pen so much was because she saw like for like, and that was hard to see.
I think this is why we clamor time and time again for a like Portia spinoff.
Oh my God, please, it's not too late.
Because I want to see what Portia was worried about, because we have all those scenes of Portia criticizing Penelope for dreaming and reading and, and you know, having her face in a book and her head in the clouds. And I want to see what was young Portia like. Was she a dreamer too? And she doesn't want to see that in Penelope so that she doesn't get hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
I really wish they'd kept that little moment in episode 5 because I would have loved to have seen that insight from Portia. Maybe they didn't want her to have that knowledge. Maybe they wanted it to be a surprise where like here, Portia's like, oh my God, we are more alike than I thought we were. But I like the idea she's always recognised that secretly and not really admitted it to anyone.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been a nice parallel here where Pen comes to that realisation of her own. But they sort of end it on this moment where Portia says, if we survive this round, we must do better. Carving this way forward between the two of them for the future of their family.
Yeah.
Brilliant scene. Gorgeous performances. Polly Walker, a highlight as ever.
Yes.
So earned. And then that's almost the Penelope Portia storyline wrapped up, except you have that gorgeous moment at the Bug Bowl, which we will get to.
Yeah.
Guys, I know we've got a blackmail plot. And I know we've got a marriage on the rocks, but we are back for the second most important wedding of the season. Frohn are finally getting hitched.
Whee!
What a Frohn podcast. It's a beautiful small affair in the Bridgerton drawing room, which has been very cutely decorated. It's got like tartan and flowers and everything, like a real merging of their family styles.
Of course, our beloved Polin are also in attendance, so while the bride is upstairs putting on her own beautiful gown, Veg, how are our favourite bride and groom looking?
Pen is in her dress from earlier, and Colin has given us the dignity of popping on a light-coloured waistcoat and cravat, plus a jacket.
So, Lecky, it's seconds before we walk down. I don't know if it has an aisle. It's a living room.
It's the drawing room.
Before we walk down the carpet.
Right.
It's been up, it's been down for the Frohn and the Vi. Can we have a little moment of reconciliation before we actually make our way down?
So Violet finally expresses, well, not finally, but more firmly.
It's episode 8. It's definitely finally.
more firmly expresses her support for Frohn's match, and she acknowledges the beauty in the slow approach and how they found this kind of quiet love together. And Vi also, not so subtly, foreshadows the introduction of a future love interest, revealing she was a stuttering mess who could barely remember her own name the first time she met Edmund.
Put a pin in that one. We'll definitely be returning to that moment later.
I will say it is really sad to me that Violet does acknowledge the beauty in this slow approach and the kind of quiet love that Frohn shared, only for us to realize that it's not fulfilling enough for Fran or satisfying in the way she had hoped it would be.
It's like we've spent a whole season going down a certain idea in our head of what kind of love story this is. And then at the last minute, it's kind of pulled away from you. And you're like, oh, actually... No,
yeah.
You didn't need to have that learning curve, Vi.
I think her arc would have been more fulfilling all along if they just kind of like made it more obvious
that it wasn't quite right.
Yeah.
That they had a love, but it wasn't the romantic kind of love.
Yeah.
We'll get to it. We definitely will.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's a very sweet scene as Fran's getting ready and they have like this mother-daughter moment and Violet can't believe that she's leaving to go so far away. Again, be careful how you treat people, Vi.
Yeah.
Lucky, can you get me some wedding music, please? Thank you very much. The two exchange their vows, and Reverend Hughes, are you on hand to mark these two married? Are you ready? Take it away, babe.
May you now live together.
It's very echoing Bridgerton House.
In holy matrimony until your dying breath. Amen.
The echoing is the foreshadowing for the funeral ceremony to come in a church.
Until you're dying. You're dying, you're dying, you're dying, you're dying.
The best part of this, the actor who plays Reverend Hughes is perfect. He knew the brief, he knew the story he was conveying, he was committed.
You know Tom Verica pulled him aside for a chat.
He looked and he was like, your dying breath, yours specifically. It's like, make no mistake about who's dying here.
Yes.
It's just normal wedding vows, right? So like you hear in sickness and in health, you're like, we're picking that one up. Till death do us part. It's not for as long as we both shall live, because that girl's going to get remarried before you can blink, but until death do us part. And there's also another little bit of foreshadowing when John, during his speech, which we'll come to, he says, forgive me, tears were the last thing I meant to evoke.
It's so sad. I'm sorry I'm laughing, but it's literally the saddest.
But we did make it through our vows, did we not?
We did.
Yeah. During the vows, however, the scene description says, as they speak, we clock a pleased look between Violet and Danbury, followed by a glint between Violet and Anderson. Penn and Colin stand beside one another, the romantic words they're hearing clearly having an impact. They look at one another, tortured by the distance between them, both longing for one another, but then looking away.
I did say once that I wanted Penn and Colin to exchange looks during a Frohn wedding.
During a wedding, yes.
I didn't know it'd be like this, but I'll take it.
Yeah. And then it says, John and Fran smile, truly joyful, and then John leans in for their first kiss. It's chaste and sweet and quick, and they're both all smiles afterwards, except a moment later, when the eyes of the crowd are no longer on her, there's a slightly curious look on Fran's face, a look that tells us perhaps she didn't feel exactly what she was hoping to feel from that kiss. The smile goes right back on, however, as the family then comes in for congratulations.
Lucky, you clocked that expression instantly.
Yeah, I said, oh no, repeatedly.
You knew exactly what it meant. You meant the implications. And I was like, completely passed me by. But you were straight away with it, weren't you?
Yeah, I was slightly disappointed because... We just finished that speech with Violet where she acknowledged the beauty of the slow approach and the different kind of quiet love that she saw that Fran and John shared. So then to know that something is missing for Fran was just a little disappointing because I'm fully on board with Michaela being her true love.
Yeah.
That passionate type of love that all the Bridgertons have. But I really wanted the love that she had for John to be real too. And maybe it is, but this moment where she's dissatisfied when they share their first kiss is just kind of a downer.
Yeah, it's complicated, and I agree fully that there was sort of cheapening their first kiss a little was not nice.
Yeah, I think that if they wanted her to be just like fully a lesbian, I feel like I would have rewritten Fran's arc so that she didn't have all of those moments with John where they kind of felt like they had something a little more.
Yes.
Absolutely.
They do have this like special bond and that's fine, but the way it's portrayed and depicted, it tricks us into thinking that they love each other too. And like maybe they do, but we we think that there's a physical component there as well. And this is the moment where we realize, oh, that actually wasn't there all along.
Yeah.
And I feel like Fran's journey of convincing Violet, oh, no, this kind of love matters, even though it's different than the love you've seen with the Bridgertons and that you were pushing me towards. Like, it cheapens Violet's own realization that that kind of love is important and fine too.
Yeah.
Because the conclusion will eventually be Violet was right all along, instead of like, this has shown Violet a different way of living.
And I think the other thing too is like, again, I think they played along with too many ideas. I'm gonna shit on Benedict again. I'm so sorry, everyone. I like him. They did him a disservice. They shouldn't have just all of a sudden made him a bi character.
That should have been set up from season 1. Or like carried through since season 1.
Yes.
Because he has an interesting reaction when he finds out about Granville's lover, for example.
Right.
And I feel like that would have been more interesting if they carried that forward in season 2, whereas instead of having the romance with Tessa, they had him having a romance with the man.
Right. It feels so disjointed.
And then for Fran, I feel like her storyline was already really complicated in that they also had Samadani, and she's like the diamond of the season, and there's all this other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And then to reveal that this connection with John wasn't what she was fighting for all along, that she was trying to convince Violet was actually true love. It didn't make much sense to me. It's just tragic in a way that it didn't need to be because John's storyline is already tragic.
Yeah.
So I will speak on this a little because I definitely agree that it is kind of being maybe mishandled and it's frustrating. As context, I've had a lot of different feelings about things in myself, but at this point in my life, I do believe myself to be a lesbian. Surprise! And it's hard because there is so much complexity. And like with my ex, I was with him for 9 years almost, and there was love, like for sure there was love. Mm-hmm. Now I've kind of explored the other side of things. It's clear how different it is. But like in a world like Bridgerton, you wouldn't have that awareness. And there was that love, whatever type it was, with Francesca, and even if she is a lesbian, she did have a really genuine love and feeling of comfort with John. And I think, yeah, it did cheapen it, making it the disappointed kiss. And also, if they hadn't had that, they would have been fully able to explore the side of herself. Mm-hmm. Even a compulsory heterosexuality storyline, even if it had been revealed that she didn't love John in the way she felt like, it would have been a lot nicer for it to realise that it was, you know, a different kind of love that she felt with him than maybe what she was looking for slowly over time.
Yeah.
Rather than her being like, oh, that kiss wasn't hot.
I agree.
And it made people cross. Like, we're all so, like, pro.
On board with Frankilla. Yeah.
Yeah. But, and even that, like, people who are super pro it are just doubting it a little, which is just not nice for us. It's not nice for the people who don't support it. It's not nice for the people who are it. Yeah.
Who are supporting it. Yeah. I think your point is really valid in that they could have had her come to this realization after kissing Frankilla the first time and realizing this is so much different and this is right in a way I didn't even realize at the time because I lived in a world where I couldn't come to this realization until this possibly like happened to me.
Yeah.
Like we didn't have to have this moment of disappointment for her to realize that her connection with Michaela is what she was potentially looking for all along.
Yeah.
It's complex. It's different for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so complex.
It's also interesting, though, because Fran has actually said on screen to Violet that, you know, love doesn't have to be all, you know, butterflies and sparks and passion.
Right.
So why was she looking for it in this moment, and why does she realize it's missing if she didn't think it had to be that way?
And maybe they'll dive more into it in her season where we find out in her backstory she's always known, but she's like...
Was hoping.
I mean, yeah, but then that would make people even sadder for John and like watching... You wouldn't be able to watch back season 3 with a smile on your face in those scenes.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
I suppose it depends where they take it in season 4, doesn't it?
It's I think it's been poorly handled, as many queer storylines are.
It's a complex issue.
Well, I suppose we don't really know. They could change it in the next season, though, right? They could
100% change this next season.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting point of discussion, isn't it? And valid points, everyone. We will kind of touch on this a little bit when we get to the Michaela introduction later in the episode. But, I mean, ultimately, we don't really know the direction they're going to go on in season 4. So there's only so much we can sort of say from these little moments. We don't know what struggles Frohn are going to face, if any, before he dies. I mean... sorry, Frohn, it's your wedding day. Feel bad.
It's fine.
He's got married and I'm like, what are the struggles they're having and when are they going to die? Okay, sorry about that. We're at a wedding. Let's get the wedding party back in full swing.
Yeah.
So let's see how the festivities are going. Hopefully we've got no appearance from the Queen to ruin proceedings. In fact, everyone seems to be having a pretty good time at the reception. We've got close family and friends only. And Marcus Anderson, he's swagged another invite, hasn't he? And you know what? Those siblings have definitely noticed something's going on. I mean, it's been going on since episode 3, so I'd hope so, but you never know with the Bridgertons.
Also, really interestingly, Fran says something that seems like a little bit of season 4 setup to me. Mm-hmm. She says it to Eloise. She says, "You should be grateful to Lord Anderson. Now that I am wed, Mother's attention may turn to you again, unless she's distracted." And we know from season 4 that Violet, again, will be turning her attention to Eloise and trying to get her married.
She's coming for you, Elle. I love that we're episode 8 and it's only now that Eloise has twigged. So the others have kind of, and now she's like, oh my God. As I say, he's literally been there since episode 3, Elle. Even Anthony noticed it, and you know that is saying something. But as ever, it's no mystery that it took Elle.
She's just not very observant, is she?
No. You know what? For someone who likes to observe, she's not the top 10. No wonder it took her so long to figure out Penn was Lady Whistledown and that Colin was pining after her. Maybe she can work on the observational skills up in Scotland.
Yeah. She's not joining the Scotland Yard anytime soon, however.
She's not. Well, she's in London, I'm afraid, Lecky, but...
Her investigative... Well, I know that, but I mean, her investigative skills are not quite great.
She's... You know what? It's room for improvement, I would say. Mm-hmm. Our lovely friend Purple Cat said, I love the convo the Bridgie Sibs have about Lord Anderson. It reminds me of the conversation they have in the books when she dances with a gentleman they don't know. I think that was Violet in Bloom, if I remember. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love these little moments. They're so fun. And Murphy's mum said, during Fron's wedding, Colin mentions that Marcus is lucky Anthony is travelling. How do you think Anthony will react to their marriage, to the romance? Oh my God, sorry, Freudian slip. How will Anthony react to the romance when he returns from India? Look, we've seen there's a promo pic from season 4. Vicus are going strong. I don't know how far they're going to get in the next season. I don't know that they're going to get married in the next season.
Yeah, I think they're there to mirror the second chance romance that we will see with Fran Kayla. However, I feel like it'll be a lot like that scene at the wedding reception in 307 where Anthony will be kind of like bristling and Kate will be like, look elsewhere. It's fine. You know what I mean?
I think they'll be happy for it though. I mean, he kind of fits right in.
Mm-hmm.
He does. But with the romance and the marriage situation, is it different? I know that there are said to be things that are different when it's your second marriage or when you're a widow. You can get away with a lot more. Mm-hmm. But if they started shagging...
Ploughing.
Surely they would get married. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Once they're married, though, I don't know if there'll be like a hookup prior to marriage.
What's she got to lose?
You think there will? I guess it'd be very Bridgerton of her. Very much like all the other Bridgertons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the family will be full support.
There was also a cut exchange between the Mondriches and Lady Danbury at the wedding reception. Lady Danbury had been made aware by this point of Will's cousin's request that they sponsor his daughter, and she warns them that whatever they do could end badly. She says basically if they sponsor the man's daughter and she incurs scandal or doesn't make a match, it could harm their own daughter's chances on the marriage mart. And if she's a success, even more distant relatives may come out of the woodwork to ask for their help, basically. And this last point really concerns Will and Alice, so we will be revisiting the subplot again a bit later.
Because you know we love a plot where a cousin comes from out of town and causes chaos.
Yes.
Revolutionary. But what I love, a little detail in this is visually at the wedding reception, you have like the Bridgertons are all gathered together and then like the non-Bridgertons are all gathered together. So the Mondriches, Lady Danbury, depressingly Penn as well, because she doesn't feel like a member of the family at that point. She's observing them. But Marcus is like planted with the Bridgertons, so he's already in there.
Yeah, he's wiggled his way in.
He's oiled his way in.
That's right, yes.
But of course, as I say, Penn has been deliberately standing away from the rest of them throughout the reception. Perhaps that annulment idea that Portia mentioned is ticking away in her brain. But she has this really beautiful moment where she watches fondly on as Violet and Fran play the pianoforte together, and the whole family are sort of caught up in this really lovely moment. Mm-hmm. And then her gaze turns to Colin, who's just so immersed and happy with his family. And this is a moment that she approaches him and takes him away for a private conversation in the study. The scene of many, many crimes. But stop right there, because a crime has been committed right here on our very podcast, Lecky. We are cruelly, but needingly cutting this podcast in half. I am so sorry. It was inevitable, really, wasn't it, Lecky?
Yes.
It's the finale. We have a lot to talk about.
We always said that we were going to do one episode for 308, but it turns out we had a lot of thoughts about it.
Oh my God. Which episodes were we successful in doing in one episode? 301. I don't know how we did that.
Just 301, my favorite.
No, 306 as well, wasn't it?
Let me consult our... You are right. 306 and 301.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Great. So we were successful twice.
Yes.
Well done, everyone. Of course, there is much more to discuss, and we are going to do our very, very, very best to get it out to you before season 4 drops. Aren't we, Lecky?
Yes. We're doing our best. And if it doesn't happen, however...
Enjoy part 1.
Yeah. Don't come for my podcast, as Lady Danbury might say.
So we will be back with, well, more season 4 stuff. I'm sure that's all happening. Happy premiere week, Lek.
Yes.
But yeah, the rest of the rewatch will be coming out at some point, we promise you. But until then, if you are watching 401 on the live stream, have a great time. Lecky, what are you most excited to see?
Well, I may be working.
No, you will be watching it. Don't you worry about that, Lecky. Don't you worry about how. It will be happening.
What am I most looking forward to?
Yeah, from 401.
Well, I mean, Polin, of course. I'm sorry, this is a Polin podcast.
Of course.
We are all in on Bridgerton. We love everything about Bridgerton. Of course, I'm excited to see Polin, happy Polin, back on our screens at long last.
We've done our time.
If you mean something besides Polin, I would say I'm very interested to see a scene of Benedict and Sophie interacting, actually talking.
At length.
That isn't the masquerade.
Yeah. Well, not in 401, babe. That's kind of it. They're only going to see each other at masquerade, aren't they?
Oh, shit, you're right.
I hate to break it to you, darling.
God, I just put my forehead down on my microphone.
She did. You heard a thunk. That was lucky.
Oh, darn.
You're in for masquerade time, doll.
Okay, you know what?
Try again.
My third answer, I guess, for this is the Penwoods, the Gunley family. I'm really interested to see Araminta, like, what villainess she delivers this season. Yeah, they're going to be great. I am just looking forward to, like, the first 5 minutes. Oh, those are always good.
Do you know, just, like, being back and you're like, oh, my God, it's always, like, a really surreal...
Oh, that's a good answer.
It's like Mayfair, 1816. Like,
yes.
That is, like, the thrill that never stops. You know, it gets you every single time.
And then probably hearing the Benofi theme for the first time in the first couple minutes of the episode, like we did with Polin.
The music. Oh my God, the covers. A musical moment.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Lecky, I can't wait to watch it with you. Happy premiere week, everyone. Literally cannot believe it's come around this quick. I am still stuck in 2022 at this rate.
Yeah.
But here we are, yet again, Lecky. Until then, where can everyone find us?
2022, is that because Pirate Colin? That was like the year.
Yeah, I never moved past that point.
Yeah.
You know, it drags me back into the abyss.
Into the abyss, time and time again.
Pirate Colin.
In the meantime, you can find us at What a Barb Pod on Instagram and TikTok. You can also listen to our podcast on any podcast platform. And if you'd like to watch podcasts and perhaps look at beautiful collages, we are also on YouTube.
You won't see our faces, don't worry. Just the lovely, lovely cast.
You'll see lots of Polin.
And you can also find us on Patreon at patreon.com/whatabarb.
/whatabarb-pod.
God, great. Thank you, Lecky.
Broad podcast.
Yeah, God knows what that link will take you to. What a Barb pod. P-O-D.
Good.
But until then, Beans, do us the honour and sing us out.
Das violin. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.